and there's definitely a citation advantage of publishing open access, and I'll show that to you a bit later in my slide. So publishing open access really are benefits that the researchers can get from. So from Springer's side, the Springer Nature side, we were the first publisher to publish more than 1 million gold open access articles. That's also already considerably 60% of all open access articles publicly globally comes from Springer Nature. So we are a real large player in this market. We have been there for a long time. We have been one of the starter initiatives in open access publishing. Abraham, can you maybe ask people to mute please?
Oh, noted, Mr. De Kock. Colleagues, we all know that this is a serious event. Let us all mute our mics because we know that you are in your workstations, but please mute the mics because we have special presenters before us. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. De Kock.
Thank you, Abraham. I appreciate that. Continuing that in 8 European countries, 70% of the corresponding authors are publishing gold open access. So again, we are one of the publishers of choice for open access. We've launched more than, and this 1,500 is already, we've overachieved that. We've launched more than 2,000 open access books, which means that there's another medium available to open access, to researchers to publish open access in not just journals, but books as well. And we see this is a growing market for open access publishing as well. Over 200 million open access book chapters have already been downloaded. Again, just emphasizing that open access books is another avenue for researchers to consider when they want to publish research. We've supported 2.5 million authors with publishing open access, and our shared tools have access to 2,700 journals.
Thanks.
So just on opening up research, on publishing open, what is the benefits of this? So it's good that it's important that researchers know what benefits will they get, because obviously in the end it's still author's choice how to publish, and we really want to make sure that authors understand what benefits they will get should they publish open access. And here you can see it in front of you, 6 times more downloads for open access articles. So that's 6 times more than any subscription-based or closed publications. 1.6 times more citations. I mean, as a researcher, you want to be cited, you want to be acknowledged, you want your research to be used. And here's another good advantage for publishing open access. 4.9 times more altmetric attention. So people are out there, they're seeing your open access research, they are responding it on social media, and getting good altmetric attentions, mentions and blogs and tweets as well. This is for journals, and as I mentioned, open access books, the market is really growing all the time. And here you can see why. 2.4 times more citations should your book be published open access. And we also see that the turnaround time of publishing books these days are shorter and shorter. So we find books that are published in one copyright year already in the same copyright year.
Mr. De Kock, let me disturb you.
Yes.
Colleagues, for the last time, colleagues, let us all mute our mics, guys. We do not want to hear what you are saying in your offices if you are not listening attentively. So please, colleagues, with all due respect, mute your mic, mute your mic. Thank you, colleagues. Back to you, Mr. De Kock.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. 10 times more downloads open access books because it's available. It's available behind in front of the paywall. You don't have to pay for it. So the books are there to be used and to be downloaded. So we see 10 times more downloads for open access books, which is really, I mean, it increases your researchers' visibility out there. And then 10 times more altmetric attention. So books really do get a lot of attention, especially with open access books. So if you're still considering publishing open access, these numbers should really just be tweaking your interest and making you consider that as well. Just going back to where are we going with this, with open access publishing? And this is just the overall publication output 27 to 2022. And you can see there's a really growth. So publications, people are publishing quite extensively in the last couple of years. We see a drop down in 2022, but that was after the spike of 2021. We were lots of research output due to COVID. People had a lot of time on their hands to publish. So we found that there's quite a big spike in 2021, things to be normalized in 2022, and we expect another growth year in 2023. So people are out there publishing, researchers are out there publishing. So open access should be considered as a channel for your publication. And here you can see why. This is for South Africa, people publishing with all publishers. And if you look at the left-hand column, that indicates open access, and you can see the growth there. It is inclining all the time and increasing all the time. So it's now is a good time to be part of the open access movement. Not that closed articles or publishing subscription-based journals are declining. We still see a growth there as well. So it is a good time to be a researcher now to publish, because publishers are looking for content. So so now you have the facility available to publish open access. Really make use of it now. It's a good time. And this is just for Springer Nature again. You can see that with open access articles, open access articles, good growth there in 2021. It was really a good year for publication, and we contribute that to the fact that it was COVID and lots of research was done there, and the normalization in 2022, and we expect, as I say, another growth in 2023 in the publication market. So open access is growing, as is the subscription-based closed articles is growing. So again, my invitation to really consider publishing open access. With that in mind, we are moving, Springer Nature is moving with this open access trend. And with that, we are one of the leading publishers with transformative agreements worldwide. As you can see, again, here we are across the world. Most of the transformative agreements started in Europe, growing out to the east, and to the west, and in Australia as well. And if you look at the bottom of Africa, there we are. We have now a transformative agreement for Southern Africa as well, of which both universities of Limpopo and Venda are members. And we want to thank you for your participation. And I'm going to be telling you a bit more how to make use of this excellent opportunity to publish open access. Right, so let me quickly give you some detail about the Springer Transformative Agreement, how it works, so that the researchers out there can take note and then ask me how to proceed next. Right, so we agreed on a 3-year license with SANLIC, the local consortium, and we have an article allowance of 955 this year, 974 in next year, 993 in 2025, a growth of 2%. And to achieve this, to able to be publishing this article allowance, it's a first come first serve basis. So we have not gone the route of a specific allocation per institution. It was agreed with SANLIC that it's first come first serve. So the opportunity is there for your researchers. There's no restrictions on how many articles they can publish. So we really want to again extend the invitation. Consider publishing not only with our transformative agreement, because we are aware of other transformative agreements out there, and the facility is there. It needs to be used by the researchers. So we, for Springer Nature, we have over 2,000 hybrid journals available to publishing, spanning all subject areas. So we really cover everything from agricultural to zoology. So please consider publishing with us as well. And most of the journals publish under the CC BY license. Right, it is a read and publish agreement. That's why we refer to it as a transformative agreement. In the past, Springer and SANLIC had a read-only agreement. We only opened up access to certain content, and now we are transforming to a fully open access or open access agreement. That's why we have a read and publish component in this agreement. So the universities of Limpopo and Venda get access at no additional cost to the following journal collections: Springer, AIDIS, Palgrave, academic journals on nature.com, So that means that all members, and this is the first time in any arrangement that we have, Sanlink, is that all members have access to the same content. So that is, I think, one of the biggest value adds and benefits that we've seen in signing this agreement with Sanlink is that everybody now have access to exactly the same content. And with this includes an archive back to 1997 where applicable, and you will always retain the access to this as well. Oh, sorry. Did I now? Sorry, do you want to go back? Previous, sorry. Where's my slide now? Sorry. Sorry, I was on. I missed my slide. But apologies. I just want to start this again. So, sorry. Can you see my screen still, sir? It seems to have frozen.
Yeah,
It seems to have frozen. Please. Can you still see my screen? I'm going to stop sharing for a moment.
Still on the screen.
Stop sharing for a moment and just go back again because I think I've lost my screen.
No problem. Colleagues, while they are solving the screen problems, please, colleagues, keep your mics muted if you are not recognized. Thank you, colleagues. And then bear in mind that we are celebrating Open Week Access 2023, the collaboration of University of Limpopo and University of Venda. Happy Open Access, colleagues.
Sorry, I don't seem to be able to pick up my slide. No, that's not it. Apologies. I want to go back here. Sorry, there it seems to be now. I don't know what's wrong now. It doesn't want to pick up my slide. F5.
No, take your time, Mr. De Kock. Take your time.
Apologies, neighbor. I'm not too sure what happened there. It just froze on me. So it means I'm going to again just stop sharing and just go back in if you don't mind.
Okay, no, you are welcome, Doctor.
Apologies for that.
Guys, we are in celebration of the Open Access Week. Now our first speaker is Philip De Kock, licensing manager for Springer Nature, Southern Africa. So they are trying to load something so that they can proceed or continue with their presentation. Just bear with us, guys. Do not forget that this is Open Access Symposium.
Yes.
Organized by the University of Limpopo and University of Venda. External guests, you are welcome and warm greetings to each and every one of you. My name is Abraham Mutiba, your program director. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. De Kock.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what's happening now, Abraham. I've restarted. I'm going to close my PowerPoint and then just open it up again. Can you see my opening screen? Sorry.
Yes.
So for some reason, it doesn't want to load my graphics anymore. Apologies. I'm in my keyboard. And now I'm going to try and do this. Okay. I'm stop sharing. I'm going to talk out of the hand if that's okay with you. Sorry. I'll switch on my camera and explain to you the way forward. Apologies for that. I'm not too sure what happened there, so let's improvise now as well. So, yes. So with the read part, you get access to content, and that is with an archive. And then the publishing part is that we have 2,000 hybrid journals available, where the authors and researchers can publish with open access with that cap of the 955 article allowance available. We are, and at this stage, we are a bit behind schedule. But we started a bit late in January as well. So I want to encourage the researchers and of universities of Venda and Limpopo. There are articles available. If you have anything to publish, now is a good time to jump in and make use of the opportunity. I was hoping to show you a very insightful slide, and then unfortunately I cannot because of some technical glitch. But we've published about 623 articles already through the SANIC agreement from all institutions. And that is being used across the world. Lots of interest in China, lots of interest in America, and obviously lots of interest in Southern Africa as well. But from that 623 articles, the percentage of users that have accessed it that are not that are anonymous users are 70%. So of the usage of that, and I think it's about 390,000 downloads, 70% of the downloads are from anonymous users, which means they are not registered on the Springer Nature platform or system at all. So these are users that previously could not have had access to your research because of licensing issues or paywall issues or restrictions. Suddenly now, 7 out of 10 users have access to your research. And if anything, if it doesn't motivate you to now reconsider publishing open access, I'm sorry, I cannot do much more. But 7 out of 10 users, our new users, have access to your open access research. Now we see that growing as well. So, which is a great, which I think is just underlines the benefits of publishing open access. That now your research is out there, it's to be used by the general research public as well. So that, I think, is in conclusion. What I wanted to say, to summing up, is that you have an open access agreement with Springer Nature through SANIC. You have the facility to publish open access. We have lots of information available. I'm glad to share this afterwards with you, and some links. You can go read about the agreement. Where you want to find out more, do you participate? How do you go about using it? I'm happy to share that with you. And then we have frequent events where we do author workshops free of charge, where we invite researchers from across the region to listen to an editor explaining how to publish with Springer Nature. Well, you can say with Springer Nature, but how to publish in general, because the way publishers work, it's pretty much the same workflow with some slight differences. But it will tell you how to publish, what to look for, how to write, how to submit, what to do with feedback, what to look out for preparatory journals, publication ethics. It's an hour-and-a-half session, really of value. It's free of charge. Please feel free to attend that. And hopefully we can enable you and equip you to really publish with and get your work out there, because the scientific community needs your research. So with that, I want to say thank you, and thank you for bearing with me with the technical glitch. I'm sure it's never happened with me before. And I want to say thank you for Abram for effectively managing the session. I really appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much for the time. I'm honored to have been here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. de Kock. Thank you, colleagues, for bearing with us. One of the things Mr. de Kock highlighted, that is from Springer Nature, the benefits of open access, ladies and gentlemen. They highlighted the fact that there is an increment of visibility. And then another thing that I heard from Springer Nature, ladies and gentlemen, that will encourage us to write more papers, is the fact that Springer Nature supported 2.5 million authors regarding open access. So, Mr. de Kock, thank you. I believe colleagues are gathering questions that will be directed to you, Mr. de Kock. So just be ready. And then, guys, another thing about Springer Nature, they have published from 2017 up until last year. We are not even counting this year. They've published more than 11,000 articles of open access. So guys, by hearing this kind of stats, maybe you can start to check with Springer Nature so that in future they can help you publish your papers. So thank you, Mr. de Kock. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Colleagues, allow me to share the program a little bit so that we can see where we are. Colleagues, tell me if you can see the program. Thank you, colleagues. Now we are done with the Springer Transformative Agreement Open Access for Southern Africa by Mr. Philippe de Kock. And then thank you guys, happy open access. Do not forget that the theme of the open access is community over commercialization. Community over commercialization. So the two terminologies, ladies and gentlemen, you can try to connect them with your research endeavors and other career endeavors for open access. Thank you. Colleagues, apologies, I was muted for quite some time. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. de Kock from Springer Nature. Now we are about to introduce Prof. Mawele Manjoro from University of Venda to give her speech or presentation, ladies and gentlemen. Let's not forget that the theme of this year's open access is community over commercialization, ladies and gentlemen, and happy open access. Over to you, Prof. Mawele Manjoro from University of Venda. Thank you, colleagues.
Sorry, Mr. Motiba, we forgot the introduction. Please, let's first introduce her.
Okay. Over to you, Ms. Bangani, with the introductory. While we are waiting for them to connect, guys, make sure that you gather all the questions.
Greetings awarded. Our next speaker would be Prof. Marizvikuru Manjoro, University of Venda, Associate Professor in the Institute for Rural Development. Marizvikuru Manjoro is an Associate Professor in the Institute for Rural Development, also known as IRD, University of Venda. She coordinates the PhD program in IRD and serves in the Faculty of Science, Engineering and Agriculture Higher Degrees Committee and Union Social Sciences Research Ethics Committee, for which she is the Deputy Chairperson. Her research interests encompass ethno-veterinary medicine, livestock science for rural development, and water and food security for improved rural livelihoods. Mawele Manjoro has over 80 peer-reviewed journal publications and book chapters. She has contributed to human capacity development by successfully supervising 11 PhD, 14 masters, and 24 honor students, farmer training and mentorship of peers and postdoctoral fellows. Marie is an Academic Scholarship Ambassador Mentor, Organization of Women in Science in the Developing World full member, Africa Science Leadership Program Fellow, and an Executive Committee member of the Northern Region Research Ethics and Integrity community of practice in Southern Africa, among other professional associations. Marie is a National Research Foundation C-rated researcher. Marie is passionate about continued learning with others, hence we welcome her today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for Professor Mwale Manjoro.
Thank you. We welcome you, Professor Manjoro. Thank you. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you very much. May you please let me know if you are seeing my screen that I was trying to share.
Professor, we can see your screen and then we can also see your facial.
Thank you so much. I thank you for the kind introduction. Let me. Sorry. Let me stop sharing because it looks like from my end it's so that I can put on slide mode. Okay. Much appreciation for the kind introduction as well as invitation to this platform. I appreciate the honor. So as we are celebrating open, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Prof. Just hold on for a minute. Colleagues, welcome to this Open Access Symposium of 2023, second collaboration of University of Limpopo and University of Venda. Colleagues, please mute your mics. If you are latecomers, please mute your mics because we have heavy speakers. They are busy. Over to you, Prof. Manjoro.
Thank you very much, Program Director. So as we celebrate the Open Access Week, I thought I should come up with a topic on what are the approaches that we can use to optimize knowledge access, and this is access by all. And I would like to appreciate University of Venda and University of Limpopo for coming up with this collaboration, because it helps us to fit into the puzzle for a good cause in which the international space is moving towards too. So I would like to talk about the following. So I'll start by setting the scene, looking into the Berlin Declaration and why open access after all. Is it really necessary? And to whom should this open access be directed? Then I'll move on to the main focus of the presentation. Okay. So like I said, that this is an international movement and it grants free and open access to everyone, like what my previous colleague indicated in his presentation. So mainly this access is done online. So this is done to reduce the knowledge divide in terms of accessing and awareness of what is happening. But it does not end to knowledge only, as well as cultural heritage is seen within the online platform. So in this instance, there is no restriction with regards to accessing resources. But however, as much as we are saying everyone should access freely, the information should be used in a responsible manner. The other issue to take into consideration is that the resources can either be scholarly content or non-scholarly. So I think for scholarly content, Mr. De Kock addressed that. That's where we look into the work that is published, especially in journal articles or books. But for of late, even funders would want us to submit our data so that at least anybody else we can access and see if there is something that they can also add into that. So the whole idea is to ensure that we don't work in silos, and we try to address the concerns that affect nations in a holistic manner. So I like the fact that it also covers non-scholarly content. So we would see the issues like music, videos and the like. And like what has been indicated as well, the access is free in terms of finances. So the technical glitches are reduced as much as possible. But however, I'd like to say when it comes to a researcher, it should be clear that for publishing, especially scholarly material, there is some cost that is incurred. So the access is free, but however, when one is publishing, there is some cost that is incurred. As we can see from this, that once the researcher has decided on where to publish, there are about 3 routes that the researcher has to consider. So on the top one, you see that there is some processing charges that are required, and immediately after that, there is the article is online, what they call gold open access route. Then the second route is whereby when one is subscribed to a journal, and normally is done through libraries, and we appreciate for the support. So this one will go through the green open access route. And then there is another one, which is the last one, which they call the hybrid journal subscription-based payment that will be required. And then it also have some quick publication. But the question is, what can we use this content for? So there are so many uses. The list is endless. Some of them we heard them already, but we can read. It can help us to keep abreast with what's happening around us, and for us to gain some understanding of some issues, especially contentious issues or those that affect us. We give also the privilege of downloading that information if, for instance, we want to use it for teaching purposes. And then it also provides privilege for copying that material, provided I'm doing it for a good cause, and distribute. For example, one can distribute to students, to peers, or research participants. It depends on what has been downloaded and what is being distributed. And this can be distributed either as a printed copy or an online. And as we continue to search, we may even get an opportunity to get more information that is linked to the area that we are looking at. And most of them will lead us to the access of full text. Then coming on to the question, why open access? Is it really necessary? Do we really need it, or is not important? But the question is yes. This is the reason why we are celebrating it today. So we are saying this is a vision which is being realized for global accessibility and representation of knowledge. The second reason is because everyone has the right to be informed. So open access will provide that opportunity. It also brings us close. I think we are now a globe. Each nation does not stand alone. So it reduces that divide between nations. So there is no boundary, and one can quickly get to know what research or what outcomes were realized from the other end. It also helps to gain the most benefit for science and society in solving international complex developmental challenges. So because of this, there was a Berlin Declaration which was signed in October 2023 in support of open access. So the main idea is to ensure that there is effective use of open access and to promote it after all. And the declaration acknowledges that open access is there to ensure that human knowledge and cultural heritage is approved by the scientific community. So there is a lot that will take place with regards to research, and the scientific community verifies, and once it's informed, then if it's published in open access, then everyone else will be able to have access to it. The other aspect that was considered within the Berlin Declaration is that the future web must be sustainable, interactive, and transparent. So this will ensure that there is sustainability of the open access vision. The last but not least of some of the issues that were included within the declaration is that the content and software tools must be openly accessible and must be compatible, because if it's not compatible, one might be able to access, but it might be difficult to make use of it. Like we indicated that we may download, we may share and the like. So the issue of compatibility becomes fundamental. But all in all, this has to be supported by policies. So I think we heard that there are some policies and frameworks that tend to support and guide how open access should be navigated. So in any case, there is need to manage and to ensure that that responsible use we talked about later is being adhered to. So different publishers have got their policies and frameworks that help to ensure that open access is promoted and is being done in a proper manner. So to whom is open access? Yes, we said everyone, but let's just try to categorize some of them so that we really have an appreciation of open access. Okay. So would critically reflect and say whom should use this really, and are they do they deserve to access it and make use of it, and whose responsibility when it comes to use of open access. So in this case, we look at students. We start with students because we are from a higher education learning. I think we appreciate that our students access information for assignments, for skills development, knowledge, and the like. They also get to know what to study in future. And then for research scholars, some they are capacitated when they access information, and it helps them to keep abreast with what is happening within their discipline, and as well as insights with regards to research and what to use in their workspace, for example, teaching and learning. When we look at households, they also gain information. They need this information. It helps them to devise accurate solutions for what is hindering their progress. In some instances, they get information about farming, health, skills, development, and the like. For example, some farmers, they indicate that there is what is called information asymmetry. Because of the value chain, one might have known how to produce a particular crop, or they are into livestock farming. But because they don't know how to venture into the market system, they will run a loss. So with this now, it helps them at least to get that information and at least realize the benefits of their farming enterprise. Communities have also needs. I think that's why there are community libraries. So once they access information, it will help them to inform policy and programs of initiatives that helps them to improve their livelihoods. They have their own developmental needs and challenges that they face. So once they access information, it helps them to see how best can they solve what is affecting them. The government also cannot be left behind. They need to review policies, formulate some, or ensure that they are implemented. So open access will also assist in that regard. Then we move on to practitioners, because they're there to support implementation of initiatives that researchers probably would have recommended. So there are so many people that can access, and what use is highlighted. But then it will come a time when we need to pause as a community and say, let's think. Open access is good. We are accepting. Open access is for everybody and being used responsibly. But how best then can this be optimized? That's where my point of departure is. Right. So there are different methods that we can optimize knowledge access. But I would like to probably use the umbrella term of science communication. And within that, you can notice that at the end, I included journal publications. With science communication, we are trying to make sure that after embarking in research, how best have we now communicated our findings to everybody? But if you notice, most instances we normally maximize transferring our output to our peers through journal publications. And in essence, in some instances, others include journal publications within science communication, because we are saying it's expert to expert communication. But for some scholars, they would want to take it out, singly out, and not consider it in science communication. But I thought we can include it. So yes, as much as it helps us to bridge the gap between different stakeholders in the in public, like the policymakers, the industry, and civil society, to what extent are we making this accessing information in as much open manner as possible? There are many ways in which science can be communicated. With the advancement of technology, which we appreciate so much, there are so many media platforms through which information can be shared, and it's toned down to the manner that each particular targeted recipient would understand it. So if I would like to go with my output to the community, I should use the language that they should understand. If I'm going to a policymaker, if I've done a policy brief, then they should understand it and be able to take it up, or maybe see to it how it can be useful. I think we have seen some videos shared through TikToks. Others are using Facebook. Initially, it was for social aspects, but you can see business sharing of information and the like is increasing so much. We've also witnessed some TV and radio talk shows where people are sharing their results. Newspaper articles, yes, and popular articles where we now need the expertise of science journals is to assist in unpacking this information in the manner that we can understand. So we can see that they can communicate issues to do with health or whatever that is in being communicated at that particular time. Apologies for my voice. We also have issues like citizen jury as part of science communication. The list is not exhaustive, where we target particular citizens within a community and who understand what is happening, so that at least they are assist in sharing the information with the rest of the community members. But this is done in a way that it's humorous. They get to understand the findings. We persuade them so that if they need some implementation which lead to improvement or solving societal challenges, then we have achieved. Some can use storytelling. The whole idea is to connect with the audience, especially their values and interests, because their interest may not be our interest. Then the question will come to say, how open is open access? Is it really open the way we are seeing it, or there's something that is required for improvement? So if we look at some open access journals, not all of them, but some of them, the charges are too high. And we look at it, who pays for this? Yes, is the government through the universities and maybe research institutions. As we know, they produce knowledge, but when they are publishing, then that subsidy will assist. But this is to some countries and some organizations, because not all institutions in other countries receive this subsidy. We are privileged in South Africa to get this support from the government. Then we are asking ourselves, is the model really fair and transparent? It's just a pause. I'm not saying it's not fair or it's fair. It's just a question. It's always good to think critically and brainstorm before we see to it that there is need for improvement and how best we can bring improvement to really ensure that open access is open. So should Univen or University of Limpopo pay same amount as what we call the big 5 universities? This is just a question I'm posing to us as a community of practice. Yes. Is the model transparent and fair? Okay. Another issue is to say, are communities really accessing information, or we are leaving them out? So that notion of saying leave no one behind, is it really applying to this open access? Because if you look at aspects of science communication, for example, we may go to the field to do the feedback workshops. Am I being sponsored to do that, or somebody has to pay from his or her research funds? So there's something probably that needs to be relooked into that. And this feedback, is it done openly? Is it done to everybody in a proper way so that they get this information and make use of it? Because as we all know that in a feedback workshop, there's what is called feed in and feed out. As we give them the results, they also confirm or dispute some of the results depending on how we interpreted them. Or they can top up to what supplement to what we would have gathered from them. So this is very key in us making sure that the findings are really authentic and informing what needs to be done. The further advantage is that it helps researchers to get more information that would require further research. So payment normally, if we look closely, is directed towards journals, but the other forms of information dissemination, they seem to be not within the matrix. Okay, if we look at these journals, yes, we said they are open, but are they really accessible to the public, especially the community members? Most of the times they seem to be accessible to us, not to the ones who participated in providing the data. So what are these challenges? Probably some of them that will help us to improve, to make sure that open access is really to everybody. There is lack of infrastructure. For instance, if you look at broadband access, it's not really stable and not good for everybody. There is insufficient, probably, access to electronic gadgets. Some may not be having the computers or phones or tablets, as you may see. And this unstable supply of electricity is also hindering others to really access information. The issue of digital divide is also a challenge, because not all researchers and communities have access to this internet. Good example that I like is what is called Wattpad. I like it because it is engaging learners at school, even primary. The platform gives them a guide on how to write stories, how to write books, and they like. So they are developed from a tender age, and they are guided freely, and they can even write and share with others. If they don't want to write, they can also access what to read. So for those who love reading books, and this is good to help them improve in their language, especially English. But as much as it is good, not every learner can access this because of the digital divide. And then lack of awareness. I'm glad that we are having this symposium. It feeds into the awareness issue. I'm also glad with Mr. DeCock. He mentioned free workshops to academics or researchers. It assists in creating awareness. So we applaud for this, and we are saying we need to do more of that. There is issue of quality concerns in the context of rising predatory journals, because it ends up being a challenge to researchers in distinguishing what is predatory and what is not. So that would need as well to be addressed. The other issue is financial constraints. Some might be really willing to publish with a particular journal, but the processing fees might be high for the researcher, because not all receive these subsidies like I indicated. And then there could be some cultural barriers and linguistic. We had the issue of indigenous knowledge or indigenous communities, but some cultures hinder them to share the knowledge, or so at the end of the day, it might be difficult. And the language barriers, I'm glad with the UNESCO policy. The policy indicates that the publication is done in about 8 to 10 languages, if I remember well, which is good. But are we saying those are the only languages that helps people to access and have motivation to read and make use of the information? So as much as we are using English predominantly, there are some communities that are comfortable in using their native language. So probably that may need to be considered for us to ensure that we are optimizing open access. There is also still a gap in terms of training researchers on how to access and publish with reputable open access journals. So I'm not sure whose responsibility is this, but that gap exists. And these challenges are mainly experienced in developing nations. When I was reading the declaration, and I saw also in the UNESCO, I tried to look for somebody from Africa, and maybe I would need to be assisted there, but it looks like I did not find one. So our own voice needs to be heard as well, so that at least some of the concerns that we are having, it becomes easier in trying to solve them, like what open access is helping us. So I leave this to us as a team to say, there's need to deliberate, there's need to brainstorm, there's need to see how best can we optimize this so that at least we get the benefit out of it. By the way, we're told is the benefit for the society and science. So the maximization of it is fundamental. I just brought in few suggestions here to say there's need for a policy that defines how to fund open access information, especially when we're disseminating to local communities, so that at least they can access it properly. The other issue is, I'm glad that there are policies and frameworks to this, but there's need to really look into it to say, are they strong enough? Are they properly implemented? Because it's always good to ensure that they are adhered to, so that at least the good use of open access is maintained and the intention of open access is taken into consideration. So in conclusion, I'd like to say, yes, we love open access. It's good. It helps. Open access is there for scientific information. We can see educational resources, especially when we consider global open
Prof. Manjoro, you are muted, Prof. You are muted, Prof.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible now, Prof.
Okay, so when was I muted? On this slide or earlier?
Yeah, just go back to the previous slide. Yeah, the previous slide will do.
This one.
Yeah, you were there.
Okay, so I was saying, thank you so much, Program Direct. I was saying it's time for us to pause and really think through into this, because the idea is for critical thinking and brainstorming, so that at least we look into this matter to ensure that we maximize the vision and intention of open access. And it will help us to see what is it that is required to improve to ensure that everyone is accessing information. So I was saying, I just brought some suggestions to say there's need to ensure that there's a policy that defines how funding can be done for open access when disseminating information to the local communities. The other issue is to look at I'm glad that there are policies and frameworks that guide open access. But the question is, are they strong enough? Is there something that needs to be improved? Are they being implemented? Because it's always good to ensure that they are adhered to. Reason being, there's wherever there's a good thing, there's also an opportunity for the opposite. So to avoid some breaches of making use of information in an irresponsible manner, it's good as well to look into the issues of policies that guide the integrity of using it. So I was saying, in conclusion, we really love open access. We are celebrating it. We have embraced a good initiative. Reason being, open access is there for scientific information, is there for educational resources. For example, the Global Open Access Portal, if you go to the UNESCO platforms, and dissemination and access of information becomes faster, and it helps us not to be in silos. But there's also some work that we need to do to ensure that we have optimized it. Otherwise, I would like to appreciate the organizers for the opportunity. And like I indicated, I'm here to learn with others. So I'll be glad to learn with others together. I've shared so that at least we learn together. So I'll also hear from others, their opinions. Appreciation to University of Limpopo and Univen for inviting me as well, and your consideration. Otherwise, thank you so much. And these are the sources, some of them that I used to prepare the presentation. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Prof. Manjoro. A round of applause for Prof. Colleagues. Thank you for the informative presentation. We learned a lot. And then, guys, just to wrap up the presentation of Prof. Manjoro, what I've picked up from the presentation is the fact that she highlighted community. You see, guys, community is very much paramount because we are from various communities. So she said something about to whom open access is meant for. When we say community, she said communities need to get or to have access to information so that our communities can develop. So thank you for that factor, Prof. Manjoro. And then she also said, in communities, we have so many community development challenges. So with open access, so many studies can be written so that our communities can develop. So the reason why I'm highlighting the word community, guys, isn't it our theme is community over commercialization. So community is very much important. She also emphasized the benefits of using open access to say we are able to read for free. It can be distributed for free amongst our peers and our loved ones so that we can be informative or informed as always. And then she also highlighted one of the barriers of open access to say researchers are paying a certain amount. So guys, with that being said, let's go to question and answers. Thank you, speakers. Thank you. Guys, questions. Now it's time for questions and answers. Our heavy speakers are ready for your questions, colleagues. By a raise of hands, can I have those questions, colleagues? If there are no questions in the next 15 seconds, guys, and then you can also write in the chats, ladies and gentlemen, your questions. And then let us not forget that we are celebrating open access, the second collaboration of University. I see a hand from Susan. Over to you, Susan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mutiwa. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible. Susan, you are audible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to pose a question to Prof. She mentioned something about the Berlin Declaration being signed in 2023. So I would just like to ask if there's a difference, if indeed it was signed this year, and if there's a difference between the one that was signed in 2003. And then she also mentioned, I think that this is a various open access routes, the gold and the green one. So I'd just like to ask if she could just deliberate a little bit more on the created common licenses, if she has any information on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Over to you, Prof. I don't know if you heard her clearly.
Yes, program director, and thank you so much, Sue, for good questions. From what I picked, it could be that there's some information that they did, so it was like an update. So that I thought of taking the updated version, not necessarily to turn down the earlier signed. Because if you notice, you're quite right. Even the policy, it was published much earlier than this year. Then, with regards to Creative Commons, I would like somebody to assist me who might be knowledgeable in that. But what I know is it depends on the publisher. So there are some instances if their policy don't consider that agreement, then you have to pay. But with some, if there is some subscription that is done with that particular, maybe for example, journal, then the payment is so much reduced. There is some subsidy that takes place. So at the end of the day, one would not be forced to incur cost as much as there is no subsidy that is done. Just like, for example, if one is a member of a particular association that has got a journal, if the colleague is publishing with that journal, there's some waiver that is done when publishing with them. So that as well applies in some instances. But if somebody would want to add to that, is more than welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. Susan, I don't know if you are answered. Can you just maybe notify us?
Okay, thank you so much, Prof, for the insightful presentation. I've learned a lot. It means I'll have to check the latest, the one that was updated this year. Thank you so much. Thanks, Ibram.
Thank you, Susan. I saw there's another hand. Can you just speak because I cannot be able to recognize you? You are welcome to speak. I think it's Ngobeni, something to do with Ngobeni, if I'm not mistaken. Over to you. If there's another question.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. Universe, you are audible.
Okay, the question that I wanted to ask is, greeting to the director and the house at large. Ne? So the question that I want to ask is the first speaker, Philip de Klerk. I'm here in this thing of open access, and I think you mentioned before where you once hosted the first one. So I want to access. I want to ask what are the benefits of using open access as a publisher? Like, what are your benefits as a publisher? Do you get some rewards after people have downloaded your publications or something like that? I want to access. I want to get an clarity on that.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. So the benefits for the publishers is that it's an alternative publishing model. We have the open access publishing model, and we have the subscription-based publishing model. So the benefit, the aim, or the job of the publisher is to get research out there, and we would like to obviously make sure that the research reaches as many and as wider audience as possible. So with open access, it definitely opens up a completely different audience for your research, because for the subscription based, you know that you have to have a subscription in order to get access to the content. So it's pretty much behind the paywall. But with the open access, it is out there. It is available to, and as I mentioned with my statistics, 70% more researchers and other users are having access to your content. So you're reaching a much wider audience. So open access for the publisher is definitely the way to go forward, in that we are reaching a far wider audience that we would reach within the subscription-based publishing. Does it answer your question, sir?
Thank you.
I'm answered.
Thank you, Universe, for that question. Are there any other questions, colleagues? I see there are 2 questions from the chat, but Sylvia, you didn't specify whom the question is directed to. But let me read the question out loud. The first one, colleagues, I believe this question is posed to all of us because we are all professional. How can the library administrators ensure that open access policies do not adversely impact the financial sustainability of their institutions, particularly in fields where traditional publishing models are still dominant? That's the first question. I can repeat it for the last time, but help me, colleagues, check the chats. You'll see the question. How can library administrators ensure that open access policies do not adversely impact the financial sustainability of their institutions, particularly in fields where traditional publishing models are still dominant? Thank you, colleagues. The question to you guys.
Chair, if I may, from the publisher side, a comment?
Yes, you can comment, de Kock, if you understand the question.
I like to think so. So your question is how do open access policies do not adversely impact the financial sustainability? Now, we all know that library budgets are under pressure, and that you are asked to do a lot with a little. So we really appreciate that. We've seen some creative solutions to a lot of things. So the important thing is when considering an open access policy is, first of all, does it fit in your budget? Does it fit in your current budget? And then what is the biggest value add and benefit that you get from that? You should be the winning party in that. So and there we would like to think with our transformative agreement is that we put the institution first, where we didn't have restrictive article allocation. So there's no, you have to publish so many, you can only publish so many. It's a free for first come first serve. That should encourage universities with lesser research output than the larger ones to really now participate, and that is pretty much applicable to the other agreements as well. So looking at the benefit is that there's no restrictions on you, and also the value that you spend should pretty much be in line that you would have had with the previous policies that you had in place. So it's a balancing act, and I like to think that all universities are considering that. So it shouldn't be a threat. It should be you should be seeing as a value add and taking advantage of a good deal going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. de Kock. Thank you. Thank you. I believe you are answered, Sylvia Mujapelo. If you are answered, I would like to move to the next question. And then colleagues, please mute because you are not yet recognized. The second question from the chat. How can libraries ensure that open access policies do not inadvertently perpetuate the existing power imbalances in the academia by privileging certain types of research and researchers over others? Yeah, this is high English. Let me read the question again, colleagues. How can libraries ensure that open access policies do not inadvertently perpetuate existing power imbalances in academia by privileging certain types of research and researchers over others? Over to you, colleagues. Here's another question. My previous speakers, here is a question. And other colleagues, if you think you can answer this question straightforwardly, so answer, please. Guys, we are running out of time. Manjoro, you are welcome, Prof.
Thank you, Program Director, and thanks, Sylvia, for good questions. That really prickles our minds. So I'd like to try and respond to this, what I'm thinking. So probably there is need to really look into which disciplines are gaining advantages over others and what could be the reasons, because the whole idea is to ensure that information from across disciplines is published and accessed by everyone. So once that has been identified, there could be some criteria that will be used to ensure that everybody will come on board. For example, some they consider like the quota issue to like a tracking that will be able to show you that everybody has been catered for in an equitable manner, because at times you can't really be equal depending on productivity as well. So I'm sure that can also help to ensure that everybody is taken on board. I hope I tried to bring some light. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for that answer, colleagues. Now we are moving on to the next speaker. Over to you, Azola Bangani. And then with that being said, thank you, Azola, for the nice induction you are giving for our speakers. Thank you. Over to you, Azola, with the next speaker.
This is not.
Hi, Azola.
Hi, Mr. Mashango.
I'm just a little worried. I can see you concentrating on somebody. Who are you concentrating on?
I'm looking at that gentleman that looks familiar, but I'm not sure if I know him.
Oh, okay, I see. That's Mr. Sibuzondi. Let me tell you something about him. He has been involved with the academic and scholarly publishing industry for more than 20 years. His first academic publishing role was with the Johannesburg-based Heinemann Educational Publishers, now part of Pearson, as an academic representative for higher education and technical vocational education and training colleges.
Wow, can you tell me more?
Okay. In 2004, Sibu joined Oxford University Press South Africa, that's OPSA, as the academic representative and was later promoted to the regional manager role in the higher education department. He was based in OPSA's Johannesburg office, tasked with growing commercial operations and publishing activities in Southern Africa.
Wow, what's more?
More fine. In 2010, he left OPSA and joined Emerald Publishing as the business manager to start the local office and team in the sub-Saharan Africa region. In 2012, he was appointed to the role of regional manager for the region, including territories such as Nigeria, Botswana, Kenya, Rwanda, Uganda, Ghana, Tanzania, Namibia, Lesotho, Swaziland, Senegal, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, Mauritius, Seychelles, and Mozambique. What do you have to say about it?
Well-traveled.
Well-traveled. Now, his responsibilities included regional strategic implementation, consortium licensing agreements, and single institutional sales, managing costs, regional team management, customer relationship management, reputation, capital, and working as part of a global organization. In 2019, when Emerald SSA merged with Emerald Middle East and North Africa, Sibu was appointed to the role of Vice President responsible for business development in Africa.
Wow.
Wow. That's the perfect word.
Yes.
Wow. In December 2012, Sibu left Emerald Publishing and joined Reg Express as the business executive responsible for scholarly research content, transformative agreements, research and case study writing sessions, open science and open access publishing, engagement programs, market scoping, and benchmarking consulting. What do you have to say?
Great person.
Let us repeat the wow.
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 Thank you. Let's welcome Mr. Sibuzondi from Reg Express.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for that introduction. While I'm still loading my slides quickly, Program Director, I just wanted to also add to what Prof. Manjoro and Philip were saying there. I think there were two questions. One was about the costs in terms of the institutions as open access gains momentum. I think from a publishing experience, with my experience from publishing, there's a transition process. They call it to flip the publisher business model from subscription-based access to open access model. So I think somehow the costs will mitigate themselves, because we've seen a consortium like Sunlink, where both the University of Limpopo and also Univen are part of, where there's a number of transformative agreements that have been introduced to start that kind of a process. So in the long run, there will be a purely open access environment where the subscription models will fall away. So somehow the costs will mitigate themselves. There was also another question that was asked. I've just forgotten, which I wanted to comment on, but it will come up through my mind there as well. So just to say thank you for inviting us as Reg Express, and thanks for the interaction, and thanks to the previous speakers for sharing such rich insight and quite comprehensive in terms of where
Colleagues, bear with us. Apologies for any inconvenience caused. Other colleagues, can you check with Mr. Zondi? I think there's a network hiccups. Colleagues, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, there's something wrong with Mr. Zondi's connection. I hope he's trying to fix that side. Happy Open Access 2023, colleagues. We are waiting for Mr. Zondi to come back. He just started his presentation. Mr. Rapau? Colleagues, can you hear me? As your program director, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Sibu Zondi is trying to reconnect. Just bear with us. Just give us a few minutes. He will be with us. Thank you.
just want to apologize for the inconvenience caused by network. I believe Mr. Zondi won't cause any trouble. Guys, I would like us to move to the next speaker. We will come back to Mr. Zondi. Bear with me, guys. We would like to introduce Miss Abigail Shoroma. If you are ready, Miss Shoroma, we would like to slot you in, and then Mr. Zondi will follow. Because time is no longer in our side. Happy Open Access 2023, colleagues.
The speaker I'm introducing to you today has well over 15 years of dedicated experience in the library and research information service sector. She has earned a stellar reputation as an expert in research discovery and evaluation. She excels as a capable facilitator of various information systems, teaching, learning portals, and research tools and databases. Her professional journey has encompassed a broad spectrum of responsibilities, including managing a diverse client portfolio, designing and executing training programs, and overseeing teams of product specialists and service providers. She presently holds a position of Director of Products and Marketing and serves as the deputy chairperson of the Board of Directors at Worldwide Information Services, a distinguished company known for its international partnerships, specializing in library and research information solutions based in South Africa. She will be highlighting the essential considerations of open access publishing, emphasizing the importance of operating a reputable or open access journals, understanding the financial aspects like article processing charges, and appreciating the value brought by transformative agreements. These factors will play a significant role in the dissemination of research in the open access publishing landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, the speaker I'm about to introduce you today is Ms. Zanele Nomvete.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning. Am I audible? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. Okay. Oh yeah, I was taken I was taken there by a surprise a bit because I was expecting Abigail. But anyway, thank you so much for that warm introduction. Thank you for the invitation again. So I'm going to just start my presentation. And right. And my presentation, colleagues, aims at, first of all, looking at the open access landscape for University of Limpopo as well as University of Venda. So I've taken the liberty to pull through this report so that we can actually appreciate the work that is already being done by these institutions, all the stakeholders, from the library aspect, from the research aspect, and the researchers themselves in actually participating and publishing in open access. And some of the questions which were asked are quite interesting for me, and hopefully we can be able to answer some of those questions. But I'm going to start today's presentation by just looking at the output, right? So just looking at the overview. So in the context of University of Limpopo and Univen, when we talk about open access participation, what exactly do we mean? So I've pulled reports that will depict your output, that would depict your impact, that would depict the research areas, which will address one of the questions which was asked in terms of, does open access compromise certain fields or research fields? And I will actually, that will answer that question as well. So again, happy Open Access Week, everyone. Yeah, thank you again for inviting us. Now, in terms of looking at what I'm going to share, I'm going to share the open access landscape for UL as well as Univen. And then I'm also going to share SDG goals and how you are performing in terms of your output in SDGs in relation to open access. So let's start with UL. So I've done a report over from 2018 up until 2022. So when we do research analysis, we actually look at citation over a 2-year period. So if I'm interested in just looking at the output, I need to take into consideration a broader spectrum of the time period so that I can have a holistic bibliometric count of what is actually the output. So we can see that in terms of open access, the institution has been actually increasing. And what we're looking at in this slide is the overall output. We're looking at number of documents that are indexed in the Web of Science. And as you know, the Web of Science is one of the accredited lists that has been approved by DHET as a guidance in terms of where you should be publishing. So it is one of the lists which are part of the 6 lists which are accredited by DHET. So that is the output. And looking at the impact of that output, let me just slide. So what we're looking at here is actually, let me just go one back. My apologies, colleagues. My slides seem to be stuck. So let's just go one back. Right, so that is UL output. And then the next one is Univen output. So what we're looking at here, I've actually included 2023, just to show you that if we include the current year, it actually depicts as if there is a drop down, which essentially there isn't really a drop down. The issue here, which we are seeing, is the fact that the citation footprint in 2023 hasn't been counted yet. So when we look at data and actually include 2023, you will see that 2023 will depict as if it has a dip, because when we look at bibliometrics and research output evaluation, we need to consider 2 years. And that's why I wanted to show these 2 differences, that whenever we look at the bibliometric output, we always need to look at the previous year. So that is why the UL report showcases the output as a graph that is going up, because I did not include 2023. And in this graph, because I included 2023, then the citations for 2023 hasn't been considered yet. So in essence, 2022 is also showing an incline for Univen. Now, looking at the impact, so what we saw in the previous slides is the output, the number of documents. And what we're looking at now in this slide is the impact. So impact of publications is evaluated to be anything above 0, above 1 rather, is above average. Right, so anything below 1 is perceived as below average. So we can see that in terms of open access, and again, we need to look at it in context. What we're looking at here is the overall output just in open access. We're not saying the entire output for UL is below average. We just looked at publications in open access. And you can see that most of the publications that we have published over the years have been slightly just below average, or about 0.71%. We're not yet hitting that 1 mark yet. And there's multiple factors we can look into these figures and these depictions, colleagues. We can engage further to interrogate what is actually going on here, to look at, is there perhaps a research excellence group that has impacted the output, or the journal selection process, or the journal selection of the researchers hasn't been on high impact journals. So there's multiple resources that we can consult to understand this further. And the same applies with UL, with Univen. So we can see that with Univen, we actually are performing above average in some of our publications in 2018, 2019. But the past 3 years, we have been slightly below average. And so that is the impact. So impact is basically calculated on the number of publications, or the number of articles divided by citations received. That's how we arrive at an impact. Okay, so let's then look at what are the research areas that we publish in the most in open access. And this answers the question, does the move to open access compromise certain research fields? And this clearly showcases that it's not necessarily the case. All the fields have got very high quality journals that are represented within the open access publication models. So what I've just done here for legibility's sake, just to make sure that we're all able to see at a glance, I've just limited the output to top 15 areas. And we can see UL does really well in public and environmental, occupational health. And some of this data, colleagues, is also affected by some of the metadata when UL was still indexed as part of University Sefako Makgatho when you were still one institution. But then looking at 2018, 2022, so there is some data that could be overlapping there. So there is analysis and deeper understanding into some of these outputs that we're looking at. But we're also looking, you're doing quite well in environmental sciences, plant science, material science, etc., psychiatry, oncology. So there is quite a vast representation in terms of your research output in subject area, in subject areas. And this is UL. Looking at UniVen, we do quite well in environmental sciences, public and environmental occupational health, ecology, chemistry. So in terms of these subject areas that you are currently seeing, we can actually delve into micro and macro level subject areas to be able to identify, for example, in ecology, which subject areas are actually driving this overall output. So we are able to do that with the Web of Science and other tools which the institution already has access to. Now, looking at the subject areas where UL is the first author. So again, we're still looking at overall subject areas, but in this case, we're just looking at the percentage of the previous slides in terms of where are we the first author. And we are able to also look at where are we just collaborating, where are we the last author, the second author, etc. So this slide basically depicts subject areas where we are the first author. We can delve in also to see the researchers behind this data or behind this, this statistics. Right, and this is for UniVen. Again, we're seeing environmental science leading. We're seeing public environmental occupational health also leading in a cluster. So we can be able to separate that if you are interested in doing that. Now let's look at access in terms of the open access researchers. So the previous one we were looking at where researchers are the first authors, and now we're looking at overall researchers that are participating or publishing a lot in open access. And this is researchers that are affiliated with University of Limpopo, and I'm sure you can identify some of the names here. And this is the number of documents that are indexed in the Web of Science. So what we're seeing here at the bottom is the names of the researchers, and what we're seeing here in this bar graph, it is the number of documents. And this is the depiction for University of Venda, and we can see the number of documents, and we can see the researchers that are driving this number of documents. Just go back. Right, and this is where we were at. Sorry, let me just escape. I think we. Okay, and now what we are looking at is the collaboration in open access. So we have just looked at open access publications, institutions which you collaborate with the most, and you can see University of Limpopo, and you can see also the number of collaborating documents. So what we're seeing in terms of representation of the numbers here is the documents, the number of documents in which you collaborated with the institution. Okay, and what we are seeing here is University of Venda. We can see you collaborate. This is collaboration reports. You collaborate quite a lot with University of KwaZulu-Natal, University of Pretoria, etc. So I am going to share this slide, colleagues. Right. So I've also taken the liberty to look at, in terms of open access, let me just go one back. In terms of open access, which journals do University of Limpopo authors outperform the citation average rate from other institutions? So these are the journals where University of Limpopo authors are cited the most. Okay, so in these journals, this is where you receive the highest citations. And again, I will share this information. And this is the same graph. And this is journals where University of Venda authors are being cited the most. Okay. Right, so in terms of open access, we have multiple partners that are actually contributing to the whole ecosystem. And I will take questions. Typically, I would actually stop and ask questions just after showcasing the reports and then delve into the conversation later. But for time, please allow me to just finish the presentation, and I'll come back and take the questions later. Is that all right, Program Director?
Yeah, that is okay. That is okay, Zanel. You can proceed.
All right. So in terms of open access partners, we're looking at institutions like yourselves. We're looking at funders. And in terms of funders, we're looking at NRF in our context. We're looking at a lot of international funding that you receive. And one of the players is publishers. And Philip has already so eloquently represented the publishers in this conversation. And then we've got researchers themselves. So these are the key stakeholders. And I've taken, so we've got a solution which is called Chronos that aims to actually facilitate the participation of every partner and to streamline the open access publishing landscape. And how that looks like is that we've got the authors on one end. So currently the scenario is that the publishers are sitting on one portal, right? They've got their own submission portals, they've got their own article processing charges, peer review processes in place, and then there is invoicing that take place. And then you also have, and this is where the publishers are sitting, then you also have the institution on the other hand. The institution finds itself in situations where you need to report in terms of your output. What is your output for your institution? Do your NRF publication count. Also populate your institutional repository, populate your research management system. And these systems are typically fragmented. And then we also have the researcher on the other hand. The researcher is bombarded with having to, first of all, identify journals to publish in, identify portals for different publishers where they could go in and publish or submit their journals, wait for approvals, and then go into a different system to facilitate funding or APC payments. And in addition to that, we also have funders. Funders are sitting on the other hand and doing their own compliance checks. In a situation where the funder is also the institution might have certain policies to say, well, if you're publishing in an open access journal, the library will pay a portion of your APC charges. But then the question for the researcher is they don't typically always know which publishers do we have an agreement with, which publishers do I have discounts with, and all these different conversations are taking place in silo. So what the system aims to do is actually just consolidate the entire publication footprint. So they offer an authentication for the author to come in, and then come in and submit their publication, and then the system will then populate into your institutional repository. The system will also facilitate OpenX APC charging and APC management. So in this case, there are multiple ways in which you could interact with this system. There is a free version of the system, and I am going to showcase that for you. Now, in terms of the partners that are already collaborating or using Chronos, Emerald is currently using Kronos as a journal submitting portal. Kaga is using, ACS is using Kronos. Royal Society of Chemistry is using Kronos. So there's multiple publishers that are also taking part in this system just to make it easier for you to be able to identify journals to publish in and to be able to see your funding agreements that are applicable for your institution and even for your consortium. Now, moving on, this is how the system looks like from Emerald Access. So when you come through to Emerald, you will be able to see in an example here, in terms of journal selection, there's multiple DHET accredited lists which are also presented. So if you are looking for a journal that is indexed in the Web of Science, that is indexed in Scopus, that is indexed in Director of Open Access Journal, or any of the fields which the institution has selected, you can at a glance just be able to go in, type in your journal selection, or type in if you want it to be open access or you want it to be a hybrid journal. And thereafter, you can go ahead and submit your journal. So the system basically offers you two components. Number one, journal finder. Number two, open access processing, agreement monitoring, and institutional repository deposit. So how that looks like in practice, and I'm going to come back to the slide. I'm going to just take the liberty and just demonstrate how that looks like. So I've taken, this is one of the institutions that uses Kronos. So as an institution or as a researcher, I can come into the system, log in, select my funder. Let me say my funder is Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, because my funder has got its own policies of how much or what is the portion of the APCs they are willing to pay. So I'll select my funder. Let me just go back again. Let me switch off my video, colleagues. I think my bandwidth is being compromised here. It's frozen. It always happens, right? Just when you think technology is on your side. Let me go back again. My system is frozen. My apologies, colleagues. I won't be able to, it seems like I won't be able to do the, I won't be able to do the live demonstration. But in a nutshell, colleagues, you would go into the portal, identify, I'll just try and just come back to the slide, identify a journal, and the system will show you whether you've got an institutional agreement in place for that particular journal. So in this example, where we are looking at this particular journal, this journal has got a CC BY license, and it's got an estimated APC of $3,000 US. So the system will also present to you the potential APC that you would pay for that particular journal if it's not a fully open access journal. If it's fully open access, it will show you that this is an open access journal and your institution has got a transformative agreement in place. So transformative agreements take different shapes, or they are implemented different. Every service provider has got their own method of implementing transformative agreement. So you'll be able to see that for your institution, you've got X number of tokens, for example, if that publisher uses tokens, if the publisher uses unlimited number of article processing charges, vouchers, then you'll also be presented with that information. And then you would go ahead and select submit button, and then you would put in your manuscript. And thereafter, as a researcher, your journey is actually, it's done. You will wait for the system to give you feedback in terms of in terms of article processing charges. And after the system has actually processed the APCs, you will then get a link to that particular journal, which you can then utilize for either NRF reporting using your research management system, whether you use Pure or you use Converus. It is compatible, so you will be able to do your data dumps to whatever system that you want to populate. You can also use it to populate your DSpace, which is your institutional repository. So basically, Kronos Hub becomes really one place where all the publication footprint data is actually facilitated and it is shared by multiple service providers or by multiple resources which the institution needs for reporting purposes. And so that is one of the portals that I want to share. And there is a free version of this portal, which is not custom for your institution, but this is called the Journal Finder. So you can just access the Journal Finder. And this is a free portal where you can actually go into okay, let's just go into the journal guide, where you can go into the portal, search for journals, and then you will be presented with the potential what is the agreement if that particular journal has got an agreement, and then, or that particular publisher has got a transformative agreement in place. You'll be able to see, for example, in this case, I can go into Springer Nature, I can go into Taylor & Francis, and then type in a journal that I'm looking for, and then I'll be able to see if it's an open access, what is the APC, if it's applicable. However, with the free version, you won't be able to see if your institution has got a transformative agreement in place. But this is still a very good to utilize portal, just for journal finding, or for being able to be guided into what journal you can utilize to publish in open access. And that is my story, colleagues. Thank you. We'll take your questions. This is my email address and my phone number. If you're interested in having a conversation further, please feel free to reach out to me. We can be able to showcase some of the content that I was talking about. Just to take it one back, these are some of the publishers that have transformative agreements, and it's facilitated by SANLIC as well. So these transformative agreements are not the same. For example, one service provider will have unlimited number of publications that you can publish with them for free. So you just need to familiarize yourself with which one does your institution have an agreement with. But most of these agreements are actually already facilitated by SANLIC. So we just need to make sure that we spread the word within the institution and make the researchers aware of where there's transformative agreements in place. And yeah, thank you so much, colleagues.
Thank you, Ms. Nomvete, for that informative presentations. Colleagues, gather all the questions and write them on the chat. I just want to give this opportunity to Abigail Shoroma from University of Limpopo. And then Zanele, bear with me. All the questions that are directed to you, they will be asked at the end of after all the presenters have presented. Thank you. Okay, now we have Mr. Zondi. Mr. Zondi is back with us. Over to you, Mr. Zondi.
Yes, my apologies there, Program Director. Can you hear me?
Yes, audible. You are audible, Mr. Zondi.
All right, my apologies about that glitch. I cut off there, so my humble apologies there. If I could just go back, was I cut off while I was just starting, I suppose?
Yes, you were on the agenda when everything started to.
All right, I'm just going to switch off my camera so that I'll have enough so that you could be able to hear me proper. All right, so I just wanted to quickly also give an overview in terms of what I'll cover. Thanks to Zanele, by the way, for that in-depth coverage, and also it's quite useful info that is really relevant to this week's theme in terms of community over commercialization, and also what is it that the stakeholders are doing. I think it's good to see activities across the board, especially from the researchers / academics who are actually behind the creation of this type of content, and also how to embrace it as an important stakeholder in this. So I've got a few points to cover. I'll first give a brief background about who we are, and also just to differentiate open research, open access, and free access. Some of it might have been covered, but I'll give a perspective. The open access models, the open access barriers in the sub-Saharan Africa region, the whole meaning of the International Open Access Week, and its relevance to the academic institutions where most of the stakeholders are, especially the academic institution itself, the librarians, as well as the researchers. And also just some depiction of the open science principles. There's a paradigm shift from your knowledge-based type of impact towards a societal impact there. So that's interesting to see how that picture is really unfolding. And also we look at the emerging trends in scholarly writing. So looking at artificial intelligence, how is it impacting scholarly writing in view of open access? And also the SDGs, which have become an integral part of scholarly communication, but more importantly, how are they linking the society that uses the kind of content that is published? Is it that it sits behind a paywall, or if it's open access? But also, what are the advantages of publishing within the SDG points, as well as the themes, and how, especially the publishing houses, there's a shift from their own specific focus in terms of journal coverage towards adopting some of the SDGs there. And also looking at the open access benefits. We'll also touch on that. Just quickly on RegExpress. RegExpress was founded in 2009, and we operate in the whole region, the Sub-Saharan Africa region. Our operations are based on print, on e-resources, as well as research access and writing services. As you can see on the screen there, I won't name all of them in view of time. And also some of the services include open access, as well as business consultancy services that we do there. This is all based on our experiences with the Africa region per se, and also how we deal with each and every country that we work with. And also just to differentiate across the meaning of each term there. So you've got, these are used interchangeably. So there's open research, there's open access, there's free access articles. And also there was a question earlier about using scholarly content, busy that it's especially open access content. What are the kind of licenses that are involved there? But just quickly to open research, it focuses more on the researcher, the author, and also publishing the kind of research that is funded. This is reviewed research content. So this is not content that you could easily find on public domains, but there are partnerships with public, the likes of Google Scholar, where you can be able to discover some of this kind of content that is published. And also, when we speak about open access, this focuses on the end user, which basically it refers to publicly funded research, where end users could access that without pay. So this is also in line to say, how does the society and the researchers themselves benefit from this kind of content as part of research communities? And also, if we speak about free access article, this would normally be given to non-subscribing individuals or institutions. But this is still your restricted type of content, but freely made accessible for a limited period of time. We saw this a lot during the COVID years, where some of the subscription-based content was given for free for people to use. During this week, it's always common for publishers to share some of their research content as free access, but it doesn't mean that all of that content is open access. Reusing, indeed, this is quite important because we spoke about the CCBY earlier, some of the speakers. So that is to acknowledge the creator of that content, to say they've published within that particular license, if it's a gold open access policy, and that that kind of work can be reused, reproduced, and also redistributed as well. So it's always important to differentiate across there as well. And also, I'm sharing a slide. This just gives a broader of open research. This is what was adopted and also part of the UNESCO recommendation by the General Conference of UNESCO in November 2021. This emphasizes collaborations, societal impact, which includes all disciplines and sciences, which basically is open knowledge, open infrastructure engagements, and also dialogues. I think there was a question earlier to say, will other research disciplines be more preferred than the other? I think it has to do with us on the ground involved with all the stakeholders, be it that you are a research funder, government, a researcher, institution, whatever role that you play. It's important to ensure that the researchers themselves are trained. It could be a teaching-based institution in this age where there's a transition to purely open access content. So it's important researchers to be aware about open access and also to advance the culture of research writing. Just to share more on how each stakeholder can really make a difference in this particular initiative. So the theme focuses on the role of the academic stakeholder there. So this is why I've gone with that. The open access models were discussed earlier by other speakers, which were covered comprehensively. But just to keep it simple, you've got a open access policy which specifies that the author's vision deposited into the institutional interest. So this is still part of a subscription-based article, but the author can share their vision with the institution to which they affiliate. And then we've got a gold open access route, which basically, if the author has a research mandate and they are funded by their researcher, they should declare that to any to publish with, so that their research could be publicly accessible immediately as soon as it's published. And at the level of the open access publications, there's also a popular open access route called Platinum or Diamond Open Access, where these are owned by institutions or societies, and the researchers don't pay to publish within these. Research funds are used, but all the articles published within these publications are open access articles there as well. And also, there's what we call the open access barriers.
Mr. Zondi, Mr.
Yes,
Zondi.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We just want to check with you
Yes, sir.
whether if the slides are moving, because you are still our slides are still on agenda. So
are they on agenda?
Yes, can you just maybe clarify everything, my brother? But you are audible, your presentation is audible. It's just that your slides were not moving. And then on behalf of Mr. Zondi colleagues, we apologize. Over to you, Mr. Zondi.
Let me reshare. Okay. Oh, sorry about that. I thought we're on the same slides. Okay. Can you see my slides now on open access barriers?
Yes, your slides are now showing.
Wow, apologies about that.
Okay.
So,
No,
Program Director, can I ask you to let me know okay, that I'm on this next topic, and then you can just yeah, also on the same. Apologies about that.
Okay, I'm with you.
All right, I'm on the open access barriers. Can you see that one? Are we on the same slide? Open access barriers in Africa? All right. So on this particular topic, yes, indeed. With open access, we still have some barriers that we have to deal with, especially power outages, poor internet connectivity, unaffordable open access fees. I think the question was asked, I don't know if it was Prof. Manjoro, if indeed, are we saying open access is purely free? There's still some of the issues that you have to deal with in terms of affordability. In Africa, we can't afford the article processing charges. Institutional budgets are not the same. And so we have to acknowledge our different historical backgrounds, where some of the institutions were teaching-based institutions compared to what we call research-based. So there's still a gap there in terms of ensuring that, and also inclusivity. And also, there was a reflection on the current, what we call the open access waivers. So some of the countries are sponsored by some of the publishing instance, but it depends as to where you're based. So us in South Africa, we don't normally qualify for these, but some of the countries in the rest of Africa, busy that is Uganda, Tanzania, they do get full open access waivers where they don't have to pay for APCs. But also the criteria there, the open access waivers are based on the World Bank classifications depending on the per capita income according to the profile. So there is a misalignment there to that extent. And also poor open access awareness and lack of research investment is still a very, very big issue for us here in Africa as a barrier. I'm on to the benefits of open access publishing. Can you see the slide, Program Director?
Mr. Zondi, can you please move to the slide number 8? You are still on barriers according to our screen.
Oh, okay. All right. I think we've got a problem there with my slides. Okay, yes. I'm just gonna stop sharing. Let me go back and see if maybe there's something else I need to do there. Just quickly, I won't take time.
Okay, and then Mr. Zondi, try to also make it on a slideshow so that we can only see the slides that you are talking about, not also maybe, yeah. I hope
also
you
understand. All the slides, you're not able to see the presentation mode.
Yeah, now we are on the right track. Yeah, now everything is correct.
I think with Teams, yeah, I think it's not perfect from my end, but apologies there. So, but can you see the benefits on open access?
Yes, Mr. Zondi, carry on.
All right. So some technical glitches there, apologies. All right, so I've shared about 6 of these benefits mentioned earlier also by other speakers, but there's quite a number of open access benefits, especially if stakeholders like the researchers/authors take advantage of open access publishing, which benefits the end users as well, and also the impact that we're all looking for. So there's immediate access by an audience that's interested in your piece of research. There's visibility and impact across all the communities. And also, I think there's an advantage because the subscription-based article doesn't have compared to the open access article. So there's always that advantage if you publish open access. And also research funder compliance for researchers with open access mandates. I think I've touched on that. If one is publishing within a gold open access publication, a lot of researchers are actually migrating, or rather not migrating, but also using what we call the hybrid journals. So you find that the journal accepts both the subscription-based article, and the open access article. And then in that instance, one can be able to publish with those and declare if they have funded to publish open access content. But also there's a big move towards publishing purely open access publications. I think this is where also stakeholders like the academic institutions, the libraries, and the researchers need and work on those kind of publications as well. And also options to suit researchers' interest in research formats. Also, I think with open access publishing that is given. Again, I think in the past, whenever issues such as quality and standards, especially from a researcher's perspective, they were always worried about standards and quality of publication being dropped by publishers, but it hasn't been the case, and also promises have been made that it won't be the case. So indeed, those are still maintained through peer reviewing processes, and also ranking those the director of open access journals. The whole flexibility on reusing open access content also still falls under that Creative Commons license that we spoke about, the CC BY 4.0, where there's reuse, there's also there's redistribution of such. And also, if I'm not mistaken, one can also use the content for commercial purposes. So indeed, there is flexibility in terms of that kind of content. Just to check with you, the program director, can you still see my slides? I'm on the International Open Access Week slide.
Yes, you are, Mr. Zondi.
All right, I think we're on the right track now. All right, I'm sorry about the other slides. I wasn't even aware that I'm not even showing the presentation mode. I think on my side it was showing. And then again, thanks to both the University of Limpopo and also the University of Venda for us and also to celebrate this week. I think this is a great partnership, and also it shouldn't end here. There should be ongoing activities. So as the theme goes to say, community over commercialization, the past themes focused on climate justice. That was in 2022. And the previous year in 2021, the theme was under building structural equity. So this year's theme really prioritizes the communities. I think for me, there's 4 takeaways that I've shared there in terms of creating awareness within this particular theme. So the stakeholders, the collaboration, the impact of open access, persistent obstacles. So those are some of the things that I just needed to highlight to say, indeed, stakeholders that need to really work together and prioritize the community over commercialization are the publishers themselves, the research funders, governments. Governments need to really play a role because they fund a lot of research that is published. But if it's publicly funded, it needs to be declared open content. And also the societies, I think the societies need to come on board because this is where the researchers are actually part of. And also the librarians, information managers, knowledge managers are critical because they basically connect all of us. We are outsiders to the institutions, and also they are the custodians of this type of content. The researchers, the faculty members are critical creators of this content, and also the research communities at large. And also in this particular instance, we speak about how should we be also looking at impact. There's what we call transdisciplinary research, where you have to involve contributors from the academic institutions. So the public, private sector needs to be part of it because it's easy then to impact the society because we'll be dealing with practical issues, especially driven by the SDG themes that we spoke about. And we've heard a lot about the SDG themes. And also collaborations and advocacy. These are the stakeholders that really need to advocate so that we can be able to sustain open it needs to be made affordable, and also there's a need to achieve equity within the publishing system. The impact of that, as I've mentioned, it's across the board. It won't only be limited within the academia per se. The society also will be impacted in that they'll be able to apply the kind of research that's published. Short-term solutions such as APCs, while there's this transition process from based publications to open access content are still obstacles to a certain point in terms of quality, and also open access waivers might be there, but I think there needs to be acceleration towards open access content. As I said, support for non-commercial publishing models and collaborative publishing models with no APCs are actually ideal going forward there. Also, quite a nice image there to depict what are the open science and also what kind of societal impact is open access research within the open science able to achieve. So the whole framework is open science, but within that framework of open science, there's open research, there's open content. As you can see there, I won't go through the entire image in terms of what societal impact, but it's important to show this, to demonstrate that practitioners can apply the findings. There's higher citation rates and usage, as I said earlier, and also there's influence with policymakers. The public, which we are talking about, the community can be able to access this kind of content. There's compliance with research grants, research funding. Taxpayers get value for money because a lot of research is publicly funded. And also, as it's always been said, researchers in the developing countries can see your work, which in the past it's always been about the global north, but now the global south has to also take active interest only consume, but also be contributors to open access. And also there's avenues for researchers to publish their research as open content. It could be at the level of publications or also through an open research platform. With publications, these are purely open access publications. There's improved discoverability of that type of content if it's done in a publication format. And also there's collaborations across the board through transdisciplinary research across different, and also there's prevention of deceptive publishing. I think it was spoken about by Prof. Manjoro that yes, with open access comes challenges such as predatory publishing. There will be those backyard publishers that will take advantage of researchers, and there's money involved where you have to pay, as I said, is part of short-term solutions. But it's important that the library works in partnership with the faculty to make the faculty aware who are the reputable publishers to publish with, and also how predatory publishing could be. But again, also with open access publications, diversity, equity, inclusion, and access is achievable. And then also an open research platform is always advisable. Either that could be created within the institution's website as a microsite, but it should be owned by the institution there. So there's a creation of SDG used to guide the institutional open research platform. Additional branding is achievable because it's easy to discover that kind of content because it's freely accessible. There's visibility. It's managed within the reputation of the institution as well. And also it's easy to attract global contributions in terms of partnering with other researchers around the globe. There's inclusivity, equity with all the regions and also the rest of the world if we're to also have those kind of platforms as well. Zanele spoke about Sunlink's transformative agreements. There's about 11 transformative agreements in place based on multi-year cycles. I've chosen the academic stakeholder as my sub-topic. It's important to create awareness mix from the faculty, different faculties to say they can publish all the 11 publishers that are accessible through their libraries. They can speak to their librarians about access, and also either they are part of those agreements. These agreements provide academics and authors with the opportunity to publish open access. Some of it is discounted APCs, and in some instances there's no APC applicable. So I won't go through all of them, but you can see, I think we'll share the slides at the end. But just to highlight on some of these, like for instance, Emerald Publishing, there's a multi-year deal which started last year. So these are open So this is on first come first served basis, where yearly 134, like in 2023, there were like 134 that were issued. Sorry, this year. And also it depends on as to who claims this first. Of publishing with your article with Emerald, you have to opt and also show institutional affiliation as an example. So there are opportunities to take part and to publish without paying APCs. In certain instances, to publish using discounts that are provided by all these publishers that have partnered with Sunlick. And also, I'm not sure both UL and Univen libraries can tell which publishers are part of the agreements for both institutions where researchers can publish with them. Just to highlight on that. I've gone with the academic stakeholder in terms of open access. This is the sub-theme of my presentation, focusing on the role that has to be played by the faculty by fully participating in open access. Scholarly communication is transitioning from subscription models, which is peer-reviewed content, to fully open access content. This is a paradigm shift, as we all know, but I've listed the stakeholders previously, but the academics are critical. There's lack of researcher collaboration on open research and open data sharing at the moment, if we speak from a publishing perspective. And also some of the academics are still partly responsible for delaying the acceleration, because there were issues before, there were concerns before, some of them didn't believe in open access. But I think it's important to have this kind of sessions and to celebrate and create awareness in terms of what is it that needs to be done by all the stakeholders. There is still focus and emphasis on certain incentives through societies, research funding, research subsidies, but we also need to access within this equation as well as an incentive. Not enough emphasis on transdisciplinary driven open research projects, lack of understanding of broader scholarly communication ecosystem. I think it's important to always create awareness to all the stakeholders, and also lack of collective open research approach, which is also through scholarly societies is achievable. But in terms of which drivers that we could look at for the academics is collaborations, it's alignment with their publishing plans and goals, participating in short-term solutions, as we've said, Sunlick, Office, Univen and UL, active members of does provide those open access waivers, as well as the vouchers, and also discounts on APCs. And also the need to engage with the open access transition is lack of promotion of the culture of openness and open sharing practices also does hinder, but we need to change that and promote the culture of open access and also open research there as well. Just an overview on the SDGs. There has been a drive, especially by most of the publishers. Some of them, they've signed the SDG publisher where they are also adopting some of the SDGs and also publishing within certain themes of these. So this is within the 2030 agenda, which is the decade of action. And it's important then for researchers also to take this and also to align themselves to say, if you want to publish with a particular publisher, SDG themes they've adopted, and also in line with your research, how can you align with those if you want to publish with them? So there's relevance for academics in that it's a shift from your knowledge impact to societal impact. There's opportunities for regional and international collaborations if one publishes within SDGs. And also it's easy for organizations to also track their SDG participation through such and progress, if how far they've gone in terms of publishing within that framework. And also there's opportunities for open data and research repositories for institutions to create by adopting some of the SDGs as their research focus. As I conclude, artificial intelligence is also one of the emerging trends and also one of the emerging impacts within scholarly writing. We know that scholarly writing has evolved over the years from print to digital journals, which became hybrid. Now we're living in the digital age where we're talking about open access, but this does affect how we embrace artificial intelligence as a new type of technology. But from a publishing perspective, obviously there's areas such as business which will be affected in terms of the publishing workflow, and also in terms of which artificial intelligence tools to apply. Also, this is another issue. In terms of the type of technology, this would also be an impactful issue for publishers, and also how this type of technology is embraced, and also research integrity in terms of the authors, how will they remain pure in terms of the kind of work that they publish, and also avoiding plagiarizing any work that they come across by generating some of data through tools there as well. So this is basically my take on these topics. And also in conclusion, just to say the open access journey continues, and also there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. As communities and role players in the peer review research system and space, we need to be actively involved in open access initiatives throughout the time, and not only to celebrate it in 1 week. And thank you so much, Program Director. Sorry about all those glitches. I'm not sure if you can still hear me, Program Director.
Yes, you are still audible.
All right, I'm finished. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Zondi, for that long-awaited presentation. We thank you, Mr. Zondi. And then we've learned a lot that we have certain benefits from open access, such as flexibility, quality, choice, and access. So colleagues, prepare all the questions that are meant for Mr. Zondi, but you are going to ask them at the end of after the last presenter, whom is Abigail Shoroma. Ms. Shoroma, I don't know if I can hand over to Ms. Bongani to introduce you. Over to you, Ms. Bongani.
Hi, Azola.
Hi, Mr. Mahlangu.
How are you today?
Good, and yourself?
I'm good. Just want to tell you a story about a very phenomenal lady called Miss Abigail Shoroma. Have you ever heard about Miss Shoroma?
No, not really.
Okay, let me tell you something about her education and also about her career. But I'll start with her education.
Okay.
Now listen, something very interesting. She graduated with B.Inf in 2000 and B.Inf honors in 2001 from the University of Limpopo. From there, she graduated for B.Tech Business Information Systems in 2012 from Tshwane University of Technology in Pretoria. Can you believe it?
Wow.
Then she, as if that was not enough, she graduated with Masters of Information Studies in 2021 from the University of Limpopo with a thesis titled Adoption of Open Access Publishing for Scholarly Communication by Academic Staff at the University of Limpopo. Now I'm going to tell you something about her career. Listen carefully.
Okay.
She volunteered at the Office of the Premier Limpopo Legal Services Library as a step into the working environment in 2001 to 2002. Then she worked at TUT Nelspruit campus as a training librarian from 2004 to 2005. Further, she worked at Nelspruit Public Library as an assistant librarian from 2005 to 2006. As if that was not enough, she worked at Tombiselega Agricultural College as a librarian from 2006 to 2009. That is 3 years. You want to hear further?
Yes, please.
Okay. She also worked at the University of Limpopo Medusa campus as an assistant librarian cataloging from 2009 to 2010. Now, lastly, she is currently working at the University of Limpopo Teflop campus, having started from 2010 to date as a librarian for the Faculty of Management and Law. Is that not phenomenal, as I said?
Wow, it is.
Wow.
I've learned a lot
Yes, wow.
today.
Thank you. Let's welcome Miss Abigail Sharma from UL. Thank you.
Thank you, Zola, for the wonderful introduction. I would firstly like to thank, let me just try and share as I speak. I would firstly like to thank the program director and our introducers. I'm someone who is fast thinking. When Azola was saying, no, she doesn't know me, I was like, okay, but we've been doing this for 2 years. But then I realized that it's role playing. So yeah, thank you. And I also want to thank our previous speakers and to everyone present for gracing us with your presence for this symposium. It is a delight to be engaging in the open access conversation yet again and side by side with the University of Venda. It is also a delight to be informed and learn about open access from publishers or our database suppliers from their view and from the academic or researchers' view. Our publishers alluded on the agreement of publishing opportunities and approaches with Ms. Nomvede touching on the analytics and also the SDGs. And from our academics or researchers' point, we had Prof. Mwale Manjoro alluding on the communities outside the bounds of higher education, which is rather important. As I was short-sighted, you know, I was just thinking about the university community, and I was like, wow, we do collect data from those people. They also need to be involved. They are the community from which we get our data from. I'm trying to present, okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to thank everyone, and I will be shooting from a librarian's point or from a librarian's view, as they have said that I am a librarian. I seemingly can't see my, okay. I'm not sure if people can see my slide.
Yes, your slide are visible.
Okay, just bear with me. Okay, as you have realized that throughout the presentations, our presentations were just crossing up, they were going across each other. So I won't be going through most of the things. As I've said, we have heard from the publisher's view, from the academic view, and I was coming as a librarian to say, this is the movement. So where are we? What are we doing? And yeah, so we need to move from there. As I've said, that our presentation are cutting across each other, and one of the questions that is there, or that I was posing, was that it's open for who? And as you can see, oh, Abigail never showed her face, ne? Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Abigail. I just realized that I've never shown my face. Am I visible?
Yes, you are visible.
Okay, thank you. I'll switch on the camera, switch off the camera. I just realized that I didn't show my face. So you don't know who's behind this cracky voice. Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, as I've said, you know, the question is open for who. Is my presentation still visible?
Yes, it is. You are on slide open for who?
Yeah, yeah, and yes, open access is meant to help researchers by making their work, you know, putting their work out there, making their work visible. Yes.
So Ms. Shoroma, can you please kindly put put it on slideshow, please? Your present. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Is it there on slideshow? Hello?
Not yet, but colleagues, can you help me if you can see her presentation on slideshow? And then Mr. Rapau, if you can rush to her office and check what is going on. And thank you, colleagues. Happy Open Access 2023.
Happy Open Access 2023. Yeah, as I was saying, was Mr. Rapau is still coming to my office. Yeah, open for who? For researchers to make their work visible, because I mean, as librarians, we come across you know, different questions and interactions with our academics. You know, you'll have a scenario where an academic will be saying, I've published in this journal and now I need to get my students to access the article, but then I can't access the article. And only to realize that the library is not even subscribing to that particular journal, which the academic might be referring to. So, yeah, I'm still getting helped. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So, open access is there to, ooh, this is moving. Open access is there to help researchers in accessing their work, because some they publish in journals that they can't even access their own work, you know. And then in terms of our librarians or the libraries, you know, we were paying huge amounts just to have the information and to be able to provide information to our users and our clients. And it was more of a pain. And okay, oh my word. This is now dancing, so I can't keep up. And also for our publishers, you know, to generate the strategic partnership with institutions like ourselves. And for the funding bodies, if I can allude to one statement that was made by NRF, as you all know that NRF do fund research. The NRF in 2015, they made a statement to say that, you know, all public funded research needs to be publicly available or accessible. So I think open access is really helping even in that direction, and for the community. As you've seen, like I've said, that I'm thankful to Prof. Moale Manjoro for really highlighting the communities that are outside higher education, as I have been focusing on that. And yeah, so with the university community, it's for open access is helping with continual scholarly communication, because once it's open, it's accessible, and it can be cited, and also the work, they can build up on that particular work. So yeah. And I'll also touch on the role of librarians. Hence, I've said I'm a librarian. I was coming from a librarian's view. Well, librarians' role is multi-layered and crucial, and it's changing the setting of scholarly communication. Even our jobs are evolving. We were traditionally gatekeepers. We were there to say, okay, yeah, this is the information and stuff. But now, what we are at is, okay. Colleagues, they say my slides are not moving.
Yes, we thought you are still on open for who. That's why maybe we are not even commenting, but please correct that, and colleagues,
okay,
bear with us. Thank you.
Are they moving now?
Not yet, but colleagues, help me as well if you can see any movement of the presentation from your sides, colleagues.
It's not moving.
No movement
Yeah, now
yet.
it's fine. It's not moving.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Thank you. Ms. Shoroma, they say your slides are not moving. Yeah, now they are moving, but please make sure that you are doing a slideshow presentation so that we do not see what is coming after the slide, the present slide. Yes, the current slide. Thank you.
Okay. All right, let me just try and fix it.
Colleagues, happy Open Access 2023 second collaboration of University of Limpopo and University of Venda. We are still waiting for our last speaker to finalize her presentation. Thank you, colleagues, and then thank you for attending, and thank you. Just stay with us as we are about to hear the last heavy speaker.
Is
Thank
it
you.
moving as like this? Because I seemingly can't do a slideshow. I don't
You
know.
did it earlier and then you went back to the slides again.
Jesus.
Not so long, you made it full and then you went back to it.
Technology is just...
Yeah, press where the Mr. Rapau, can you maybe rush to her office and assist my brother? Thank you, colleague.
Okay, yeah, let me just continue talking because, yeah, time is not on our side. And are we seeing the role of librarians slide?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so yes, as librarians, our role has evolved from being the gatekeepers and to being facilitators. We need to facilitate information access, and we need to advocate to really speak on behalf of open access movement to ensure that, okay. Okay, are you able to see my presentation now?
Yes, your presentation is visible. You can just continue. Yes, yes.
It's moving
You are on
faster
the role of librarians. You are on slide role of librarians.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
I don't know how to make it stop on this. Yes, as I've said, librarians, we need to be actively advocating for open access to ensure that those around us, especially at the university community, gets to know about open access. And we also need to develop policies. You know, it is our responsibility, develop the policies, make sure that they're implemented. You know, we need to monitor and evaluate, because as I remember from UL, we developed the open access policy in 2017 after signing the declaration. And yeah, it's you know, with our policies, they are renewed every 3 years. So also librarians, we need to assist researchers in understanding the benefits of open access and guide them in choosing open access publication platforms which are suitable, you know, and also to help them in navigating copyright and licensing issues and providing resources for archiving, and also just depositing their works in institutional repository. That's one other thing that we need to do as we advocate, as we market library services. We need to market institutional repositories, because they are there to help in self-archiving and also in open access, as we need to be depositing work for free access. And also in terms of collaboration and education, it is up to the librarians to develop and implement open access policies in collaboration with our stakeholders. We have the academics, the researchers as our stakeholders. So as we develop those policies, we shouldn't be thinking from a librarian's point. We need to engage our stakeholders. Like I was saying earlier on, I'll keep on, you know, going back to this point that, you know, I was so short-sighted just thinking about university community, but then Prof. Manjoro just came, you know, with a new site to say, hey, open your eyes. It's not only about you as a university. You know, there are communities out there who needs to be part of open access. And also in terms of monitoring and evaluation, we need to monitor those policies. We need to see that they are addressing what we are actually on about, and also to monitor the impact of open access initiatives through the matrix and, you know, the analytics. And I'm thankful that Ms. Nonved did touch on that. All right, and yeah, coming to the role, Jesus. So coming to the roles of researchers, are we on the roles of researchers?
Not yet, ma'am. Can you try to, maybe you are still on the role of librarians?
The slides are just showing me flames. Oh, it's not even moving from, I'm seeing something else. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know what.
Yes, now you are on role of researchers.
I don't know what is happening.
Don't worry, ma'am. You are on role of researchers. If you can just carry on and then
just continue.
Yes, yes. Over to you.
All right. Yeah, I'm just I'm getting lost in, yeah. So in terms of role of researchers, with researchers being our stakeholders, you know, it is reported that there's slightly over 60% of South African and you know, our South African authored research outputs, which are buried behind paywalls. You know, paywalls is where they have to, the subscription models. And we need the researchers buying, you know, because it is very important. The researchers are the ones which are doing the work, and we need their buy-in. They need to be involved. We need for them to show that they really are in support of what we are doing. So we need their buy-in in terms of in terms of them, you know, also advocating for open access, you know, and also by them identifying the specific disciplines, and also just knowing in which journals to publish in, and yeah, also depositing in the IR. I'll always advocate for IR because it is our duty as libraries or librarians to be really advocating for institutional repository. Okay, as I've said, they also need to be advocating for open access and supporting the policies that we need to develop, and also collaborating with us. As much as we will be doing the collaboration with them, they will also need to be collaborating with us. And in terms of promoting open data and transparency, hence I've said earlier on that, you know, the researchers and the academics, they're the ones who are doing the work, you know, so they need to be open. They need to be to have, you know, to have ownership in this open access movement, and to also be able to be at liberty to share either their data, their researches, whatever it is that needs to be shared, and to be transparent about them. Because I believe that once they are open about whatever data they have, and being transparent about their work, it goes to show that, you know, their work it's on par, and, you know, nothing to worry about. And it will help other researchers to also develop on what they have started. Okay, and also to just bear in mind open education resources. We also need to advocate for that, because, you know, for our education system to be on par, you know, not to have those discrepancies, to say that, you know, when someone did law at UL, it's more proper than whatever, you know, law at wherever. You know, we need to be engaging in open education resources, where the curriculum can be drawn at such a level that it will be, you know, almost the same, and also to be able to share the notes and whatever teaching materials that they are developing. And also to comply with the funders' mandate, as I've already alluded, that the NRF issued a statement that was in 2015 to say that publicly funded resources researches need to be publicly available to, you know, freely and publicly available. And just to give an example, because I believe that maybe, just maybe, our academics and researchers might not have that vast understanding of open access, and apart from the myths that are going around, and, you know, if we don't have their buy-in, obviously we won't be moving at a rate that we wish to be moving. So just to give an example, you know, with you that I need to correct, because it's no longer 9, it was about 10, as I was updating myself this morning. We have researchers who took advantage of the transformative agreement opportunity to be able to publish through that agreement. And I think we have saved ourselves, or even the institution, you know, close to 86,000 rand. I'm trying to convert all those dollars into rand. So you can imagine how much more we can save if we have the researchers buy-in, if we have them publishing in open access or through the transformative agreement. And one other thing that we did in trying to make this more understandable for them, once the transformative agreement was signed and made available, all those journals that were made available, especially here at University of Limpopo, we ensured that normally what our research department will publish as the accredited journals by the Department of Higher Education and Training, we took a list of those journals, and we also took the list of journals that are in the transformative agreement, try to match them to see which ones are available in both lists, just to make it simple for our academics to say, okay, this is what the university is gunning for in terms of accredited journals through the Department of Higher Education, and this is the transformative agreement journals. So now you have one list that maybe you can scroll through, but I've seen that Uzanele presented something about when you click a journal and then it will tell you that this journal is under the transformative agreement or so and so. But then we did that work to ensure that, our researchers and academics, they don't have to scratch their head. Okay. And in terms of the benefits of open access, why? The question is why open access publishing, to curb the challenges experienced through traditional subscription, as you have heard throughout since the morning. And, which are like limited access and the rising cost of subscriptions. And, some of the benefits that we have in open access is equitable and universal access, because we are dealing with equity. We need to be, conversing about equity and to have that universal or global access, however you want to have it. And yeah, that should be free of copyright, because people are worried about, so what if I deposit my work for or publish in open access? Do I still have the right to my work? Yes, people still have, and yeah, just to know about the copyright restrictions that are attached to that. I have like a small scenario, because I was trying just to make, I like simple things. So the question, why open access publishing? Let's just take a scenario of a person who is incarcerated in maximum prison. When you have someone in the maximum prison, even their families cannot visit them, depending on what they are in for, and yeah, and other factors. So same applies, when people publish in subscription journals, it's more like being incarcerated. We can't have access unless we are paying for or subscribing to that particular journal. So yeah, this is just to say people need to gun for open access, and also to comply with funders' policies, because like I said, you have heard the statement, I don't need to repeat it, about what the NRF said, and of which is true, because government funds are public funds. And if the public is funding you to do the work, to be going out there and doing the research, why then at the end can they be able to access that which you came to them and say, I want to know how this and this and this and this is going? So we need to be thinking along those lines. Yeah, so also one of the benefits is increased publication and researchers' visibility and discoverability. Because I mean, if your work is out there, it is visible globally, universally. And also you as a researcher, other researchers will get to know you and they will want to collaborate, So this is not just about having your work out there and having people accessing your work. You know, it's also growth in terms of the researchers, you know, and also exposing yourself to some collaboration from elsewhere. One other thing that happened this week, you know, I thought, okay, we were doing open access, and I think it should have been something that was discussed by the committee to say that maybe we need to have something between the slots, because when we were having technical glitches, I was like, oh, we could have been just presenting about the ORCID ID, because that's one of the ways that researchers are able to connect their records and everything. And, you know, yeah, that's how you can be identified out there. It's your digital fingerprint in the publishing arena. Okay. So I was just thinking about that to say, you know, we could have been just displaying about ORCID registration for those who might not be aware of it. But yeah, we were doing it from our side. And then, yeah, increased citation rate, because obviously some of the works from researchers are not cited because they are not visible to some other people. People might not be subscribing to the journals that you're publishing in, but just think about it, that when your work is out there, you know, freely accessible to people, obviously they will read your work, and if it's that good, they'll obviously cite it, and which will increase your citation rates. And yeah, so yeah, to just transform the scholarly publishing landscape, you know, things are moving, and you'll be at a place where you are out there. I don't want to use the celebrity word. Yeah, so in terms of the approaches, I won't be going into that. It has been, you know, well talked about, but then I just wanted to elaborate more on our roles, you know, as stakeholders in the open access movement. So I'll leave that one out, and also this, I saw Prof. Manjoro also had this. So I believe that you now have an understanding. And what do we do? How do we support? How do we support open access? You know, how are librarians providing that particular support? You know, by advocating, we need to be educating our institutions, you know, our academic and researchers, you know, or the entire university community about open access, you know, letting them know about the transformative agreement, because I don't think that this is just ending here. This is the beginning of things. You know, if they get to know all the benefits, they get to know about the transformative agreement, I believe it will evolve and more publishers will buy in on that. Yeah, so that's how we are providing the support, you know, by advocating and assisting with the deposit of research in institutional repository. I won't stop to advocate for that. You know, institutional repositories is our baby as libraries. So we need to have more work, because when we deposit work, and especially the research that is going on, especially in our institutions, it goes to the National Electronic and Thesis, you know, Electronic Thesis and Dissertation, the ETD website, which is a national one. We have the national one, and then it makes your work discoverable. So just by depositing in the institutional repository, it does not end there. You know, it goes to the national one. I'm just not sure if the national one is somehow feeding into whatever international, but then that is the gist of things. We need to be depositing, you know, and growing our institutional repository. And also, as librarians, we need to be offering guidance on copyright and licensing. You know, it has been dwelled much, and yeah, I won't go much into it. And also, Institutions and researchers benefiting from open access. As I've said, the transformative agreement is not ending, it's evolving, you know, it is growing from here on. So we need to be at a place to say we are part of this and to also be able to educate. So next, the future of open access. What can be expected? Obviously, the continuing growth of open access. It is growing. We are no longer, actually, we are no longer talking open access just like that. You know, it is open science. We are talking open data. We are open research, you know, just making things openly accessible. And, you know, this is making us grow and grow more. And also, yeah, the roles of librarians and are evolving, and also the libraries, because we need to move from a place where we were just regarded as a building, you know. People just know a library as a building. They know librarians as more of shelf packers. They don't know the extent of what we are doing. So as things are moving, you know, even with open access, libraries and librarians' roles are evolving. So we are just moving in the right direction. And we also need to put more focus on our digital libraries and, again, the growth of institutional repositories. Okay, transformative agreements, more of them are coming through as more publishers will be having a buy-in, and yeah, we'll just be breaking down the paywalls and barriers to knowledge access, you know, creating greater visibility and accessibility. Yeah, and you know, a transparent research culture. And then policies, as I've alluded before, we need to be drafting policies in support of open access. And also we have a draft national open science policy. So you can imagine, you know, if science is just open to people, you know, we can do greater things. Yeah, I think this will be the end of my presentation. And yeah, these are my citation. I'm a librarian, you know, so yeah, that's what we do. We'll be saying we need to cite your work, you need to, yeah. So this is it from me. And in my last word, what I can say is collaboration, advocacy, and yeah, let's just go open. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Shoroma, for that informative presentation. Colleagues, can you please prepare those questions for our third speaker, and then the fourth speaker and the last speaker? Please, guys, let me just give you 1 minute to prepare those questions. But for those whom are already having the question, you can write in the chats, or you can show by raise of hands, so that we give you the opportunity to ask the question. But before anything else, while we are still waiting for the questions, I just want to revive that questions that was asked by Prof. Manjoro, to say why University of Limpopo and University of Venda are paying the charges, just like the 5 big universities. If Prof. Manjoro is still available, she can maybe rephrase the question. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like us to maybe try to attempt to answer Prof. Manjoro's question. You are given 1 minute to bring upon those questions. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to also thank you, my heavy speakers, for the wonderful presentation. of open access themed community over commercialization. I just love the fact that our writers nowadays, they are keen or they are interested in our communities, because if the communities have more knowledge, that means we will maybe be able to eradicate the community challenges that we are encountering as a country and then also internationally. So thank you, my speakers. And then we are waiting for the questions, colleagues. Let's show that we were learning. Let's comment, colleagues. Let's ask questions, because we will never see this day again until maybe next year when we celebrate another OA celebration. So guys, questions and clarities. Guys, my speakers are ready for your questions. Okay, UL Library Communication, over to you. There was a hand from UL Communications. Over to you, UL Communications. Colleagues, we are waiting for the questions. Komujo, you are recognized.
Thank you, colleagues. Although I'll be leaving the meeting soon, I just felt I need to say, really, in everything that has been said today, we need foot soldiers. And I just want to make a special request to our librarians that there is no way that we are going to succeed if we don't rise up and make sure that, we use whatever opportunity to assist our researchers regarding open access and any kind of help. Let me not go much deeper, but just to say, if you understand what is a foot soldier, that is what librarians must be now. And I just want to urge our colleagues that we should rise up to that occasion. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Dr. Mapopa. Thank you very much for that wonderful comment. Thank you. Librarians from University of Venda and University of Limpopo, you heard what doctor is saying. We need more soldiers. Mr. Zondi, just because I see you are proactive, can you just maybe say something, comment? Yes.
Yeah, I think there was a question that you asked program director about why was it only UL that you asked about? Why are they paying certain fees? I didn't get the full question. Is it why are they still paying subscription fees? Okay.
Okay, let me ask it. Yeah, let me ask it for the last time. But this question was deriving from Prof. Manjoro's speech or presentation. Yes. She said, is the model fair? Question. Okay. University of Limpopo and University of Venda paying the same amount as the big 5 universities? That was her question.
Yeah, I think it's a relevant question in a sense that the majority of the academic institutions in South Africa are members of the consortium called SANLIC. I think librarians and ourselves, we know SANLIC, but for the researchers and the academics and the end users, the students, they might not know SANLIC. So in the past, it still happens. Each institution was given a specific tier or level. So it's always based on the basis of specific indicators. It could be the size of the institution. It could be the full-time equivalent. It could be the amount of research output that is generated by that particular institution. And that particular institution is then classified according to that to those particular indicators to say, this is a tier 1 institution, this is a tier 2, this is a tier 3. And I'm not sure whether both UL and Univen are tier 2 or tier 3. So they will be classified according to that, but they wouldn't be classified as tier 1 per se. And on those bases, they will pay a specific discount rate when negotiations are held with all those publishers that we shared earlier, and even more publishers. Say, for instance, if say to access, if Reg Express was a publishing house, would say to access 100 journals, it's 100 Rand for tier 1. And then for tier 2, we'll say it's 75 Rand. And then for tier 3, would say it's 50 Rand. So the discount rates vary according to the tier level. But also, it's important to also accelerate the transition to say, with open access coming into the fore, there's a transition process where eventually there will be just open access models that will be dealt with. The subscription models will take time to fall away, but a lot of publishers have embraced open access. There are means and ways of ensuring that some of the journals that are subscription based are turned around, are flipped to become open access. And also purely open access publications are also being launched. So it's still a journey, but the subscription business models are also changing and evolving as well. I think Zanele wants to add, I see her hand is up as well.
Thank you,
Yes.
Mr. Zondi. Zanele, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, to add to what Sibu is saying, so from our context, Worldwide Information Services is an agent. So we represent a number of publishers, a number of deals, as well as a number of database houses that are either on the Sandlick deal or sometimes they're not on the Sandlick deal. So someone asked, you mentioned, Sibu, that from researchers' point of view, you might not know what is Sandlick. So Sandlick's role is essentially to negotiate with all service providers who are providing resources to the library. So there is a watchdog, if I may call them that. So publishers are not just operating freely without someone guiding. So Sandlick is very, very robust in making sure that deals that are not only presented to institutions are fair, in a sense that Sibu has explained, in tiered formats based on research output, all those different indicators that is mentioned. But also, as a country, we're not paying what other first world countries are paying.
Yeah.
So we experiencing discounts not only from our output, etc., but also as a country because of the negotiations that take place via Sandlick. And some of them are also brought on the table by a company like ours. So we would also push back with the service providers and push and just encourage them to be sensitive of our economic environment, to be sensitive of things like VAT, because in most international service providers don't even know about VAT, to be sensitive about exchange rates. So our company does a lot of negotiation with service providers to be cognizant of such elements when they give us pricing. So that is subscription pricing. And if you are referring to APC management or article processing charges, there are also considerations made for our country. So depending on a service provider, a certain service provider might say, well, for this institution, because their output is so high, we are then going to give them a negotiated APC rate. So there's multiple negotiations that take place. So as Dr. Komoto also mentioned, we need to engage publishers. You need to engage us as libraries, research, library, ITC, teaching and learning. We need to speak in one voice and consolidate our efforts, so that at the end of the day, we're benefiting as an institution and we benefit as a country. But there are multiple conversations that are currently taking place, and we need to take advantage of that. And Sibu mentioned, for example, he showed a long list of transformative agreements that are in place. I just showed a few of them. And those are agreements which we need to communicate to our researchers to say, hey, as the library, yes, we are paying for this, but as a researcher, please take advantage of these agreements. So yeah, there's a lot of communication work that needs to be done from all angles. And that's my contribution. Thanks.
Thank you, Zanele. Thank you. Do you want to add, Mr. Zondi?
Yeah, I think on a different, that's also good from Zanele, very good. So also, some of the emerging trends that we've seen, there's a lot of emphasis with SDGs. A lot of academic institutions have adopted some of these SDGs. There's 17 of them. But what's important to take note is a lot of publishing houses have also transformed their publishing programs. A publishing program is the journals that they publish, the scopes of coverage in those journals. So a lot of them are now aligned with the SDGs. And with those SDGs, they come up with what we call SDG themes. So if it's an SDG on education, there will be specific themes of which the researcher can be able to choose from under the heading, umbrella heading education. And they can be able to align their research to say, this is basically the area that appeals to me within the specific SDG. And as a priority area also for the institution, they might also align with a particular SDG, but the research office needs to also be involved because the research office, the library, the faculty members, researchers, they all need to work together at that particular level. And also there's a specific shift that is also happening. As we speak about SDGs as focus areas in terms of research writing and also publishing, the impact of research is critical. So we're speaking about open access content, but open access content has huge impact when it's used by the public. It's easy to discover, there are no barriers to it, but also if it's informed and underpinned by those SDGs, a lot of people will benefit. We spoke about the private sector, the public sector, and the ordinary people in the street. If they are able to access that kind of information, it will accelerate a lot and also is practical. If you think of open access content, you can compare it to having free internet. With free internet, you can do a lot to stay connected. Similarly, to a knowledge-driven society, if we are to advance our economies and also to participate in the global knowledge economy, we need to give access to peer-reviewed research. So there's a lot that is happening in that space. Hence, we're saying it shouldn't be a once-off celebration of Open Access Week, but it should be throughout the period. And different topics could be dealt with. I mean, what could be interesting to follow up with, maybe beginning of the year, because it's exams time soon, it could be UL, Univen, they focus on predatory publishing. How do we come as people that work with publishers to talk about predatory publishing, deceptive publishing, and peer reviewing topics, different topics that could become about, and also how to integrate SDGs. Those topics could follow going forward. So there's a lot to do until the next International Open Access Week next year, October.
Thank you, Mr. Zondi. Thank you, Mr. Zondi. Thank you. Colleagues, we are waiting for other questions and comments.
I have one more slide. I have a slide that I can actually share in terms of SDGs. And this can be used as a use case scenario, right, for the library's initiatives. So these are some of the output in terms of your SDGs. And what we could do from the library point of view is, okay, so this is the number of articles in which are published from UL that are contributing to the SDGs. So looking at, for example, the highest contribution of 724 articles, good health and well-being. So from the library point of view, you could take this data, look into the detail of what are the journals that are published or that are represented by these number of articles, and just populate them on a portal which will be accessed by the public. So that is one of the ways, or a use case scenario in which you could showcase that University of Limpopo, and the same applies to University of Venda. The same applies to University of Venda, where you could showcase your contribution as an institution to your SDGs, to the SDGs, by not only showing this data, because to a public this means nothing, but if you populate an article that says there's Professor so-and-so and he's written an article on no poverty, on SDG no poverty, and these are the number of articles you could access, and you make it available to the public. That's one of the ways in which you could use data to initiate contribution and to be able to facilitate access, not only to open access, but demonstrate what your institution is doing, not necessarily only limited to the scholarly context. Thanks.
Thank you, Zanele. Others?
Just want to add something different also, Program Director. There's lots of thoughts that are running through as we speak. Also ideally this week, it would have been ideal for both libraries, Univen and UL, as part of Open Access Celebration, in the areas where they're based, in the communities in which we operate. So we're celebrating this week under the theme Community Over Commercialization. So part of creating awareness is to run campaigns. It could be at school level, it could be public campaigns to say the public is invited to access this open access content written and produced by the University of Venda or by the University of Limpopo. And they can create a link on their website to say, if you're interested, click this link and you'll be taken through that. So that's another way of really sharing this kind of research with the community. And this is the kind of impact that open access content should achieve and that it should have. And then also the communities can be able to relate to say, oh, by the way, this specific academic institution is serving our needs. We might be in agriculture, we might be the youth in small businesses, we might be a startup, we might be embracing artificial intelligence, but what is it that is being written about? Of which a lot of it is relevant to the community that the university is serving, basically. So there's lots of practical ways of really connecting all the stakeholders.
Thank you, Mr. Zondi and Ms. Nomvete. Colleagues, the thing is, it's hard to adjourn because the speakers, they've said a mouthful, but we have few comments and few questions. At least if maybe there were more comments, we would say people are getting the grasp. So, but with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I also love what Prof. Manjoro covered to say government to whom open access to whom, the government, policy reviews and implementation. I think our country, we need to review certain policies of running certain things in the country, and implementation of certain policies in the country, they need to be reviewed. So we need more scholars and we need more authors and writers regarding the government and scholarly and households, because also when it comes to what Prof. Manjoro highlighted regarding households, we have farming, health, we need more farmers in the country or internationally so that our food preservation methods can increase, and then we also have more ways of food provision, and so that we will not starve. So colleagues, do you have any question, any comments, colleagues, before we adjourn the conference? Let us not forget that we are celebrating the annual Open Access Week 2023, collaboration of University of Limpopo and University of Venda colleagues. The theme is community over commercialization. And then when it comes to commercialization, ladies and gentlemen, we must know that commercialization, it will be more about marketing and also maybe giving awareness of open access. So I don't have all the guys. I don't know what to say now. I want to adjourn, but I am neutral. Can you guide me, colleagues? Should I adjourn, or people are still writing something on the chat? But while I'm waiting for a direction, thank you, my heavy speakers. You said a mouthful, and then thank you for also adding up. And thank you for your good presentations, colleagues from various stakeholders and from our neighboring university, which is Venda. Thank you, colleagues. And then we also thank you, external audiences. Thank you for dedicating your time to attend Open Access 2023. We hope for next year, this conference should be more of physical, so that we can get to know one another and shake hands, and then after get our refreshments. Colleagues, thank you once more. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just waiting for direction from all the stakeholders, being University of Venda and University of Limpopo, to tell me what to do, because I believe we have exhausted the agenda so far. Thank you, colleagues. No, it looks like we've reached the end of the session of Open Access Week 2023, the second collaboration of University of Limpopo and University of Venda. So colleagues, I just want to leave you with maybe uplifting or encouraging words from the book of Ecclesiastes 9 verse 10, where it says, whatever, no matter what you do, work at it with all your might. Remember, you are going to the place of the dead, and there is not any work or planning or knowledge or wisdom there. So because now we are alive, colleagues, let us do everything with all our might. And then happy Open Access 2023, ladies and gentlemen. We are now at the end of the session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Program Director. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Program
Thank
Director.
you. Bye.
Everyone.